We're live.
Thank you, Connor. Good morning. This is a convening of the Massachusetts Gaming Commission. Today is May 22nd, 2025. It's approximately 10:06 a.m. I had some technical difficulties getting started this morning. That's totally on me. It's meeting number 554. I'm Jordan Maynard and I'm serving as chair. We are holding this meeting virtually, so we will do a roll call. Good morning, Commissioner O'Brien.
Good morning, I'm here.
Good morning, Commissioner Hill.
Good morning, I'm here.
Good morning, Commissioner Skinner.
Good morning.
And good morning, Commissioner Broder.
Good morning.
All right. So we are going to start with some minutes. I'll say that I went through the minutes, Secretary Skinner, and there's various people at various meetings. So I'll leave it to you to help sort it out for us.
Yeah, I believe that I will have to do these in 3 separate motions. And so, therefore, Mr. Chairman, I move that the commission approve the minutes from the January 19th, 2023 and October 29th, 2024 meetings that are included in our packet, subject to any necessary corrections for typographical errors or other non-material matters.
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner O'Brien.
Aye.
Commissioner Hill.
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner.
Aye.
Commissioner Broder.
Abstain.
And I vote yes. 4 and 1 abstention.
I further move that the commission approve the minutes from the April 24th, 2025 meetings that are included in our packet, subject to any necessary corrections, the typographical errors or other non-material matters.
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner O'Brien.
Aye.
Commissioner Hill.
Making sure that I was at that one because it was one that I missed, but aye.
Commissioner Skinner.
Aye.
And Commissioner Broder.
Aye.
And I vote yes. 5-0.
Lastly, I move that the commission approve the minutes from the May 1st, 2025 meeting that are included in our packet, subject to any necessary corrections for typographical errors or other non-material matters.
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner O'Brien.
Aye.
Commissioner Hill.
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner.
I abstain.
Commissioner Broder.
Aye.
And I vote yes. 5-0. Does that take care of the minutes? Or 4 and 1 abstention? Sorry. Dean's face told me that I got that wrong. Commissioner Skinner, does that take care of the minutes?
It does for now. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Commissioner Hill, do we have a legislative update?
Really don't have an update for you today. We're still following the Senate budget, which is continuing today, and hopefully we'll finish today, but no news to report.
Thank you. With that, we're going to go to ED Serpa.
Hi, yes, good morning, Mr. Chair. Thank you, and good morning, commissioners. I do have one short update for you this morning. I just wanted to let you know about a special project the staff have been working on. On Monday, June 16th, from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock p.m., the Gaming Commission, along with the Massachusetts Supplier Diversity Office, are co-hosting a diverse and small vendor opportunity fair at the Sheraton Framingham Hotel and Conference Center in Framingham, right? And so the event is designed to connect Massachusetts certified diverse and small businesses with our casino licensees and other state agencies, and with small business resource providers to help them learn about doing business with the casinos and with the Commonwealth. And if the businesses are not certified by the SDO, they'll be able to receive technical assistance to help them do that as well, so that then subsequently they can provide services to the Commonwealth. So each of the casino operators, PPC, MGM, and Encore, are scheduled to have folks on site, as well as DraftKings and FanDuel and Bally's. And there'll be some other business resource partners there, including AIM, the Associated Industries of Massachusetts, and LEAF, the Local Enterprise Assistance Fund. and ABEX, the Asian Business Empowerment Council, as well as, I think, the Massachusetts Office of Business Development. And there'll be others as well. And the project, just so you know, the project has been developed in close coordination with the Commonwealth Supplier Diversity Office, who I know consider the Gaming Commission as one of their strongest partners for their mission in the Commonwealth. And I guess I should also point out that the work itself for us, for the commission, has been coordinated by Boniso Sandai, our Senior DEI Program Manager, and John Scully in our Finance and Budget Office. They've been working hard to put it together. I think they have over 70 attendees so far, or participating businesses coming to the event. So I think you'll agree. The event is consistent with our mission and an important example of the commission and our staff working to maximize the benefit of gaming and gaming opportunities for Massachusetts businesses when possible. So I know I'm looking forward to attending, and I'll make sure to report back after the event and let me know, or Denise will know, if you need any additional details.
That sounds fantastic, Edie Serpa. Any questions, commissioners? Commissioner Skinner?
So one comment and then a question. Very proud of this initiative. So thank you to the team for joining with SDO on this. I've already forwarded the information to my professional contacts, but how are we getting the word out about this event more formally?
Oh, well, the event itself has been, the SDO has their database of Massachusetts small businesses, and they've pushed out notification to their entire database.
Oh, great. Excellent. Thank you.
But that's a good reminder, Commissioner Skinner. Commissioners, we should feel free to push it out on our own personal networks, and the team should feel free to do the same. Get the word out, doesn't hurt. Anything else, Edie Serpa?
No, that's it.
Thank you, and thank you for the team for that work.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a quick question while it's on my mind, or I'll forget otherwise?
Absolutely, Commissioner Broder.
Dean, I'm wondering if is pursuant to publicizing it in our own channels, do you have a single document or a graphic you can share that we can push out?
Yeah, there's a graphic flyer that I can send to everybody that they can then send along. And I know that Mills has probably, if he hasn't already, has a blog post that talks about it for social as well. But I definitely have a PDF that I can send to everyone that you can then send along.
Awesome. Thank you.
That was a great question, Commissioner Broder. And I'll also look forward to the tech help to put it even on my own LinkedIn. So with that, I think that we will move to number 5 if there's nothing further. All right, for that, we are going to call Chief Delaney of the Community Affairs Division to introduce our licensees who will do quarterly reports. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. So today we have our 3 quarterly reports for the Commission. First up will be MGM Springfield, and then Encore, and then Plainridge Park after that. So I guess right off the bat, let's just go right to MGM Springfield. We're joined by Gus Kim, Arlen Carballo, Beth Ward, and of course, Dan Miller. Of course, I'm looking at our agenda here, and I think we got Dan's name spelled wrong, but that's okay. And I guess I'll turn it to Gus.
Joe, thank you very much. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, MGC staff. We always appreciate the opportunity to come before you to present to you our results for the quarter, and we're happy to do so, and we're excited to do so. Before we start, and I hope if you'll indulge me to take a moment to congratulate North and his family. And I hope, North, that you don't mind if I make this public, but North's son is going to be starting cadet basic training at West Point on June 30th, on his way to becoming a graduate of West Point. So I want to wish congratulations to North and his son for his willingness to serve our country, especially in this time. And so really wanted to thank North for that. And as you may know, my older son graduated from West Point in 2023. My older one is going to be a senior this year. So I want to welcome North as a fellow West Point dad, and I look forward to getting together on post and maybe watching a football game or two with you. So I'm excited about that. So again, thank you for the indulgence, and I turn it over to Dan to start our deck.
Thank you, Gus.
Here. Well put, Gus. And let me just share the screen here, and then we'll begin, as we do normally, with Arlen presenting on our taxes and revenue. Take it away, Arlen.
All right, thank you, Dan. Good morning to everybody. It is a rainy morning on Western Mass. Hopefully everyone out here is staying dry. Not sure where the weather is where everyone's at, but interesting May so far. We'd like to start by reporting our gaming revenues for the first quarter were 69 million, generating about $17 million in taxes. Dan, if you can, we can skip, it's the same information. Moving on to sports wagering, our sports book generated about 17,000 in taxes, while BetMGM generated $2.8 million in taxes. Our lottery sales were 399,000, 4% decline year over year. No concerns over this. I think it really is timing. For example, last year March had 5 weekends versus this year 4. So it's really just a matter of weeks moving. We also did add a lottery unit in the month of March, so I'm not concerned about that trend. Moving into our diversity spend, we spent 1.2 million with diverse vendors, which made up 20% of our biddable spend. And within our local market, local vendor spend was 2.7 million, making up 44. The next slide, Dan. Making up 44% of total biddable spend. Total spend within the state was 3.4 million, which made up 55% of total biddable spend. Some of our procurement efforts in the first quarter included participating in an event with AIM. We were invited to participate. We were glad to. That was in early February. The team also attended the GNE MSDC quarterly industry meeting. We are members and partner with them often. Also, in partnership with the Gaming Commission, we did have an MGM vendor advisory meeting and showcase. Thankful to the commission for supporting us in that. And then the team also attended the Chef's Warehouse Culinary Expo in late March. Thank you.
I guess that brings it to me. And just to sort of echo what Arlen said, big thank you to Beniswa for reaching out to us and being kind of the spearhead on that. I believe it was a very worthwhile event, and one that we look forward to, continuing to do in the future as well. Looking at our compliance slide for this quarter with the underage access gaming and alcohol, I am, very happy and very proud of the access piece. As you all know, over the years, the way that we have continued to extend measures around the perimeter of the gaming area, the way that we've, trained up our security staff and let also all employees know, detection and removal of underage is everybody's job, not just security's. That those numbers, that once upon a dream in sort of 2019 that were in 3 digits are now not just single digits, but single digits, less than 10. Although we had some instances, obviously, of gaming and alcohol, again, those numbers are relatively flat year over year, with the exception of January. Sad thing about those was that 2 out of the 3 were on the floor less than 3 to 5 minutes before we found them. They had, hit a slot machine button, but we got them off very quickly. And then, obviously, as usual, to sort of explain to all the commissioners, but also Commissioner O'Brien, the one instance of the 2 hours and 16 minutes was the one person in March. That was a 20-year-old that gained access to the floor through one of the openings in the gaming area that no longer exists. By the end of March, the rail is existent all the way around except for the 4 main manned areas, 4 corners, as it were, of the gaming area. And that one person was able to, unfortunately, to both drink and game before we found them and then got them off too. But overall, I think there is a good story here, and I think it is continuing to into this quarter.
Thank you, Daniel. Good numbers.
Thank you very much. Back to you, Arlen.
Thanks, Dan. Moving into our employee numbers, 52% of our workforce were made up by minorities, 4% veterans, and 41% women. And then there's a couple of things I do want to highlight regarding workforce and hiring initiatives. And mainly I want to spend some time talking about some of our workforce development events that happened through the first quarter. First, I would like to highlight that we had the Bay Path Women's Leadership Conference, in which we sent 20 MGM women leaders to attend. At the event as well, we showcased our dealer training program to attendees. I would also like to highlight that 50% of our promotions in the first quarter were women being promoted. So very excited for all of our new women leaders as well. And then talking about kind of some changes in our workforce development, and we talked about this a little bit last go around. Our security staffing has increased their percentage of women in the mix from about a year ago. Currently, women in security make up 23% of the total, where last year it made up 12%. So we're seeing some of those shifts in some departments that are historically traditional male dominated. So we are actively working on that. Other activities we still participate in. Dan, can you go back? We are involved with community outreach as well, partnering with groups like Dress for Success, which it's focused on unemployed and underemployed nonprofit women. We support and attend as well as participate in their volunteer appreciation event. Some of us are mentors within the program. And then we also attended their most recent ribbon cutting as they have a new boutique here in Springfield.
That would bring us to Beth, if you want to take over for our special events and community outreach.
Yeah, hi, everybody. Great to see everyone. I also want to say it was great to see some of you at the AGA event in Boston a couple of weeks ago. So that was a great event and really enjoyed that. And it's always nice to see everyone in person. All right, as you know, I usually get the fun stuff. So there's a lot to cover. I'm going to try not to speak too quickly, which I tend to do, but let's get to it. So kicking off the year, we had such a fun celebration for Lunar New Year celebration. It was a dragon weaving its way through property, and all guests got to participate, and just a fun way to kick off that celebration. Wanted to highlight also Friends of the Homeless in Q1. We love this partnership. This is something that you've heard me talk about before. This is something we do twice a month, continued in Q1, continues to this day. We prepare and serve lunch to those in need. Now, this shelter is located just down the street from MGM Springfield, and this is something that is really near and dear to the hearts of our team. So we take great pride in continuing that relationship. At the bottom left, you'll see Tech Foundry. Again, this is a long-time partnership. Their mission really is to help people get jobs in the tech workforce through training. We have partnered with Tech for years. This time, however, was a little bit different. We donated pallets of gently used monitors, computers, desk chairs, other equipment to support their student programming and hands-on learning. So we're very proud to be able to do that and put our gently used equipment to good use. I want to also highlight Springfield Public Schools Career Day. This was, again, a first for us, not a first with Springfield Public Schools. We have been honored to partner with them for years. As you know, education is a huge part of what we stand for at MGM Springfield. So this was a career fair that we hosted. It was the district's largest career fair. They are in need, like many other districts throughout the Commonwealth, of a lot of educators and staff, over 200 positions available. 40 schools were represented at this event, a massive event, big success, 250 applicants turned out. Many individuals received on-the-spot interviews, and we're told that a lot of those spots have been filled due to that. So that is something that we will look forward to continuing. We could go to the next slide. Thank you. Dr. Seuss Read Across America Week. This was, as it always is, a fantastic event, one of our favorites. In celebration of Read Across America Week, we went to local Springfield school. This was in partnership with, again, one of our longtime partners, Link to Libraries. I just want to say about this partnership, Link to Libraries puts over 1 million new books so far into the hands of kids and homes. A lot of these kids haven't owned a book. And we're so proud that we were able to do this again as we try to take as much and many opportunities as we can to go to different schools in the area. Every child that in the school also got a Dr. Seuss book, of course, home of Springfield. Taking a look at Lorraine's Soup Kitchen and Pantry, that's the top right. Again, longtime partner. Lorraine's provides a hot meal 5 nights a week to families and individuals in need, about 1,500 dinners a month. We are a big part of that, very proud to say. They also have a mobile food pantry. We are there regularly. Our volunteers help to prepare meals, clean up, and stock the shelves. So again, we are an integral part of that organization in Q1. United Way Grocery Distribution, I think this is a theme, but we go way back with them and we continue to serve. On this occasion, we help to disperse hundreds and hundreds of bags of groceries to local families and individuals in need. And we wanted to include an event on the bottom right there that is very near and dear and very popular here at MGM Springfield, our Women's Leadership Panel. You can see some great pictures there. This is something we incorporated a few years ago. The panel includes female leaders who share not only who they are, but how they got to where they are. All staff is invited. It is very well intended. It is very powerful. I was at this one as I have been for the last few years, and it is very empowering as well. So we're very proud to continue that. And I think to Arlen's point, you know, building up our leaders and those who are looking to grow their careers, this is something that we do, and we really love this panel that we do. If we could go to the next slide. Problem Gambling Awareness Month on-site screening day event. I wanted to dedicate a whole slide to this, just going over this quickly. It was a big success. As you know, we teamed up with our friends at GameSense and the Council on Gaming Health in recognition of PGAM Month and March 11th, which is National Problem Gambling Screening Day, as you know. So this was a coffee campaign designed to engage players, positive conversations about gaming and decision making. A lot of people went through this. Big success. A lot of people like coffee, apparently, so we had a lot of takers for that. The day was also about having advisors and resources on hand. By all accounts, again, a big success. We already met yesterday in planning on what we can do, how we can make it even better, bigger, and take more opportunities, not just on occasions like this, but to really get our guests involved and do more than just on PGAM and through other parts of the year. Also generated some nice media attention. Amy Gorilla always does such a great job. She is such a fabulous cheerleader for this. So thank you to her for taking care of that as well. So just to recap what we have been up to in Q1, if we could, yep, there we go. More than 200 hours more from Q1 2024 to this Q1. So we're, again, proud of that stat. Partnered with hunger relief organizations, 1,800 meals. I don't want to skip over that. Hundreds of grocery bags distributed. And you can see some of the other things that I've highlighted, including something that I didn't have a slide on, but Community Music School Partnership. That's very big for us as well, and we are glad to support them this year. All right, I am charged with entertainment as well. So taking a look at Q1, let's start at the Mass Mutual Center. The Harlem Globetrotters came back to the arena, always a fabulous crowd, always a good time. Monster Trucks, first time back since 2022, massive attendance on that. Disney on Ice, don't want to skip over this one. 7 shows, 4 days, thousands of people. Great for downtown as well. And I want to give kudos to our MMC staff for turning this over. It's a big event. Can't forget about Kevin Hart, who returned to the MMC, including a first-time post-show party that was a big success. He's always fun to have around. The Springfield Thunderbirds continue to pack the house. In Q1, out of 18 games, 14 games were sellouts. And that, again, extends not just to MGM Springfield, but to the entire downtown as well, having the thousands of people down there. AEW, again, big crowd, also televised on TNT. Let's take a look ahead. Tom Segura is tonight. Looking forward to that. I'll be there helping out and hopefully listening to a bit of that as well. Always popular Paw Patrol, that's coming back. Reyes Boxing making a return. That's been a big hit. Thousands of people expected for the Lego Brick convention and Counting Crows and Lamb of God they're also headed to the MMC, some first timers. So those sales are doing well. Let's take a look at Q1 at Springfield Symphony Hall. Hailstorms, Izzy and Joe, that sold out so quickly. It was a great show. Looking forward to trying to get them back again. The La-La's back to a packed room. Patti LaBelle, she was amazing, big hit. Free Music Fridays Winter Edition, that is our summer concert series that is so popular. We bring into the ballroom for the winter, always a sellout, even though we don't sell the tickets, but it's standing room only and it's so much fun. Let's take a look at what is coming up. Matt Frazier always sells out. Teresa Caputo always sells out. A tribute to Taylor Swift. We're so excited about this one. This is doing really well, as you might imagine, and we've heard she's fabulous. I can't wait. Ryan Adams coming in July, and finally, Free Music Fridays, the aforementioned winter edition. That returns tomorrow. Fingers crossed on the weather, not looking that great, but hopefully, you know, we'll be able to get that in, and looking forward to a great season that extends into Columbus Day weekend. So I think I got through it all. Thank you very much. And I will turn it back to Gus.
Thank you, Beth, and thank you to the team for the presentation. Chair, Commissioners, do you have any questions for us?
So first of all, I want to say that we were recently at a community meeting where North got a new last name. And so I have to take just a second to apologize, Mr. Miller, for that damn mistake that we made in the in this agenda. That said, no, I think this is all good stuff. Commissioners?
Very good report. Thank you.
And if I might just take a moment there, when you start misspelling people's names that you've known for a long time, that means they've truly made it and they're part of the family. So I take that as a compliment. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Dan. We appreciate it. And with that, and thank you, Chief Delaney, for pointing that out. We will we'll move on to the next step at bat. Thank you to MGM.
Thank you.
Okay, so next up, we have Encore Boston Harbor with their quarterly report, and we have Juliana Catanzariti with us, as well as Tom Coffey. So I will turn it right over to Juliana.
Good morning, Chair, Commissioners. Let me just share my screen. Everyone's able to see it? So thank you for your time and attention this morning as we run through our Q1 report for 2025. Diving right into gaming revenue. For Q1, our gross gaming revenue for slots for table games was about $77.5 million and about $106 million for slots. This resulted in a total gross gaming revenue of about $184 million and about $46 million in state taxes. And here's just a year-over-year summary comparing Q1s. As for sports wagering revenues, during Q1, we had a cumulative monthly win of about $802,000, which resulted in about $84,000 in state retail taxes being collected. Our Q1 lottery sales totaled about $1 million. And again, as a year-over-year comparison. Moving on to workforce. So during Q1, we had a total of 3,419 employees at the end. Of those who reported, 74% identified as a minority, 2% as a veteran, and 45% were women. In here is the same broken down by supervisory and above employees. As for operating spend, of our approximately $20 million discretionary spend total, about $2.2 million was spent with minority business enterprises, $49,000 with veterans business enterprises, and about $3.6 million with women's business enterprises.
Juliana, I'm sorry, I hate to ask you to go back, but the lottery slide.
Yep. Oh, this one or?
Yeah, any thoughts on why the numbers are trending that way?
Yeah, so some of it is we are a large lottery purchaser, and so we have promotions that come up monthly, so we switch them up sometimes. So it just depends on really what the calendar looks like. That's probably a decent amount of it, and otherwise there's no real reason that we can guess. We're switching out our machines to the new lottery machines. I think in the next, if they haven't already been switched in the next few weeks, they're switching to the newer the lottery's upgraded machines. So I'm told that they're pretty fancy, and so that might be a draw as well.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Juliana, can I speak slowly, but I also hear slowly? I was going to see if we could maybe pace it just a little bit.
Sure. I'm sorry. My apologies.
No problem. That's okay.
So we're going back to operating spend. So of our approximately $20 million discretionary spend, about 2.2 is spent with the minority business enterprises, about 49,000 with veterans, and 3.6 with women's business enterprises. So on the local end, just to highlight a few communities, we spent about $3.2 million with Boston businesses, about $2 million with Everett, and about $1 million with Somerville businesses. So now I'm going to introduce Tom Coffey, who I think is on the call to go through our compliance numbers with you. As you all know, Tom is our Executive Director of Security and Investigations.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. Thanks for the opportunity to present today. So this is the quarterly report for compliance with minors prevented from gaming. So minors intercepted on the gaming floor and prevented from gaming was 8. Minors intercepted gaming was 2. Minors intercepted at slot machines was 1. And minors intercepted at table games was 2. Consuming alcohol was 2. This number I think needs to be amended, and I will do that. There were a couple that were not checked for IDs. And then there were a number of fake IDs that resulted in minors getting on the floor. I will say that several of these were a Red 8 issue, and that's come up in the past. We've now closed the Red 8 restaurant to all persons under 21. So no longer is anyone under 21 allowed in Red 8. Additionally, what we did was we installed a new crash bar, and we upgraded the alarm system up at the high limits slot area. We've had that as an issue in the past as well. And we are installing additional turnstiles and railings at all the entrances, not only for compliance with underages, but Evolve, just to make it a more secure entrance. That should help all of our issues there. But in anticipation of Commissioner O'Brien's question, we did have someone on the gaming floor for 2 hours and 248 minutes, and that person used a non-US passport exchange.
Do you know what your average time on the floor is without that person? I'm assuming that's why the 59 minutes is so high.
Yeah, so I broke it down by month, but it's about, I mean, to round it off, it's probably about an hour, Commissioner. It's
yeah. And if you take that 3 hours, 48 minutes out, I assume it drops precipitously.
Yes, and to be fair, we did have 1 or 2 that were on the floor just briefly too, so it kind of balances off a little bit.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Anything else for Tom? Tom, did you have anything else?
Yeah, I just would like to add that with the addition of our new Evolve system, we're able to fairly accurately determine how many individuals access the floor, and excluding first couple months, but we've had 2 months of data. Over this quarterly period, I would estimate conservatively that we had 1.5 million people screened that entered onto the gaming floor. Now, some of those are repeats, you know, they come in and out, but 1.5 million have entered the gaming floor and are subject to ID and other screening.
So, Mr. Coffey, I have to tell you that anecdotally, Grace Robinson and I were over there on property, and she set off the system with a large water bottle. So I got to see in real time how your team was handling it, and I was impressed by the entire interaction.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
So moving on to highlight a few human resource initiatives. So first, I wanted to put some spotlight on the launch of our Climb program. So So we're so proud of this program. It's really a cross-property program when Las Vegas is doing a similar program with their team members. So it's a very selective 6-month professional development program. And the way it worked was that leaders nominated their team members, and then an executive committee then chose 10 high potential managers to participate in this program. It's run in partnership with Boston University School of Hospitality and some UNLV faculty who visit remotely. So some of the sessions are held at BU, some are held here at EBH, and upon completion of the program, participants receive a certificate of completion of the executive education program from BU, which is great for them. Our inaugural class graduates in June, and so we'll surely update you then. But we plan to have this be an annual program. We've received great feedback on it so far. It's a huge commitment from all the participants. It's heavy. It's not like a 1 hour after work type thing. It's full days of work, and people are still doing their full-time jobs. So it's a great program. It seems like people are getting a lot out of it, and we're happy to be able to help advance future leaders, whether it be here, we hope it's here, but just as for a professional development opportunity. So we were also excited to celebrate our All-Stars of the year. So stars are selected each month. And these are all stars who are 2 of the stars for the previous year. So these team members really live our values, they live our core behaviors, and they're consistent performers who still manage to stand out. So at the end of the year, these 2 all-stars are chosen from the previous year's stars. These are our winners this year. We summoned them to one of our residences for some fabricated task, and they got to be surprised with very loud noisemakers and this whole celebration for them, which was great. Among many other things, they do receive a trip to Las Vegas for a very formal stars reception. So I think they just went a few weeks ago, and we received great feedback on that as well. So we're super proud of them for this achievement. So as I mentioned, those were 2 stars of the year, all stars of the year. So all year we have stars chosen. We had a reception for them as well at Rare at the end of March. So we were also very excited to announce during Q1 that we received the Forbes Travel Guide 5-star distinction for the 3rd year in a row. We've now received it every year that we have been eligible. The spa was also recognized with a 5-star distinction, and Rare Steakhouse once again received a 4-star rating, maintaining its distinction as the highest rated steakhouse in the Boston area. This again is it's a testament to our team members and their hard work and dedication. As you can imagine, a Forbes rating, people come in and they shop, and it's the details that are gone through are remarkable, and our team takes the most care in making sure our property is always ready. We also joined GameSense in celebrating Problem Gaming Awareness Month in March. GameSense held several sessions in our heart of house areas, and we also worked with GameSense on guest-facing initiatives, including a coffee talk type situation, and added collateral to our front of house and social media. And finally, in March, we celebrated Employee Appreciation Day by having our executives assist in handing out cookies created by our pastry team. To highlight some of our community relations activities, so during Q1, employees volunteered 945 hours of their personal time serving organizations such as the Red Cross, the Pine Street Inn, and the Home for Veterans. We also hosted a volunteer appreciation breakfast where our top 100 volunteers of 2024 were honored for their efforts last year. We were also able to partner with Big Night, one of our tenants on property, for a Red Cross blood drive where we were happy to have 8 first-time blood donors. And lastly, our pastry team again hosted a Valentine's Day bake sale, which was able to raise over $3,200 for our Wynn Resorts Community Grant Fund. And finally, during Q1, through our TRU contribution program, nearly $55,000 was raised from nearly 300,000 tickets, which is an insane amount of tickets. People donate their change essentially, so it adds up for these charities who participate in the program. This included more than $20,000 for the Animal Rescue League of Boston and more than $15,000 for the New England Center and Home for Veterans. It's always interesting to see because these are our guests really telling us what causes they like to donate to. As usual, Animal Rescue League and animal-focused charities remain the top choice, but we appreciate this program and are happy to continue. I thank you again. Apologies for the fast talking in the beginning, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
No, I apologize for my slow listening. All right, commissioners, questions for Encore? Well, we appreciate you joining and
Mr. Chairman, if I could just add one thing, I'm sure the entire MGC staff was wondering how their cookies compared to mine.
Are you a baker?
I am on Tuesday nights.
We should have a bake-off. I'm telling you, our pastry team cookies are some of the best that I've had, but we're happy to try all cookies that are available to us.
I'm sure yours are better.
we call it in the office, Hill's Kitchen.
That's right.
All right. Anything else to add? Thank you, Commissioner Hill. It'll be hard to beat his cookies. All right. Thank you, Encore, and we'll kick it back to Chief Delaney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So next up, we have Plainridge Park Casino, and we're joined by North Brownsville, Kathy Lucas. I think that's all that we have today. And I'll turn it over to North.
Great. Thank you, Chief Delaney, and good morning, Chairman Maynard and other commissioners, staff. Plainridge Park is pleased to present our quarterly update covering Q1 of 2025. Heidi Yates-Baba, our VP of Finance, is on some well-deserved vacation, so I'm going to be running the majority of the first half of the presentation, and Kathy will pick up at the end with some of the employment and community relations items. So with that, we will jump into the presentation. On the retail sports wagering revenue and tax side, we had a net sports wagering revenue of $575,000 in the month, in the first quarter, with sports wagering taxes of $86,304. We look on the next slide with regards to our gaming revenue and taxes. Our gaming revenue was up about 7.5% year over year, with all associated taxes up accordingly. So total taxes to the Commonwealth were just over $21,312,000. Turning next to our lottery sales were actually up about 4.2% year over year. So a good increase on that side. And moving from the revenue side to the expense side, the about $885,000 or 61% of our total qualified spend was within the Commonwealth. And as you'll see on the next slide, of that in-state spend, $57,824 was in-state. Of the in-state spend went to businesses in the surrounding communities of Rentham, Foxborough, Plainville, Mansfield, and North Attleboro. Looking at our diverse spend, so our total diverse spend was 25% on a goal of 21%. The WBE spend was 13% on a goal of 12%. The MBE met its target at 6%, and VBE was 6% on a goal of 3%. And on the next slide, you'll see a breakdown there of our of each one of those categories compared to the prior quarter. I will note that although we were down from the prior quarter, we are up to the same quarter in the prior year, and this reflects just normal variation within our business of where our spend falls. So as we look on the next slide, with regards to compliance, we had a total of 171 people prevented from entering the gaming establishment. 20 of those were minors, 46 were underage, 96 had expired, invalid, or no ID. There was one fake ID detected. There were 8 weapons that were detected using our weapons detection system, and then we had one minor or underage person escorted from the gaming area. There were no instances of underage gaming, alcohol service, or sports wagering. So we look on the next slide. Kathy's going to take us through the employment data.
North, I will, because I did so earlier, I'll note that you ran me through your system, weapons detection system, when I was down there inspecting the property for the renewal period, and we appreciated that too. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Good morning, Commissioner, and good morning, Commissioners. During Q1, PPC employed 439 team members. This is slightly lower than last quarter's 469. We continue to exceed our diversity goal of 15% in Q1, with 31% of our team members being diverse. We exceeded our veterans goal of 2%, with 4% of our team members serving as veterans. And then in Q1, 43% of our team members were women, slightly under our goal of 50%, along with 33% of our team members being local, again, slightly lower than our goal of 35%. In these two areas where we're slightly lower than our goals, we've been executing our plans that we presented in the workforce strategic plan to close the gap with recruitment and also retention efforts for our team members in these two categories. In the sports book, you'll see in Q1, we had 16 team members. Of those, 13% identify as diverse, 0 are veterans, 31% are women, 19% are local, and 56% are full-time team members for us. At the supervisory category, supervisors and above, we have 21% of our managers and supervisors that are diverse, 4% that are veterans, and 29% that are women on property. Now I'll just kind of share a few of the things that we're working on that are highlights for Q1 for us at the property. So when it comes to our development and then also creating outstanding leaders, in Q1, we continue to invest in our managers and also our executives with sending our leadership team to the Penn Entertainment Leadership Meeting, where we had all of our leaders from across the properties across the US and then also Canada come in for our training. Myself attended that along with Heidi and then Bradford for 3 days of really excellent training for us. Along with that, at property, we had a couple of great events for our team members. We recognized our team members of the quarter who go above and beyond. We also had some leadership training with the Tri-Town Chamber of Commerce, where in honor of International Women's History Month, we did some cross training for our managers and leaders at our property. We also have the pleasure of having Penn's leader on diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging come by the property and spend some time with our team. So Justin was here in Q1, and it also gave us the opportunity to kind of take a look at the programs that we have on property that one, educate, elevate, and allow us to have success with our diversity team members. And then again, you'll see us with our team members of the quarter. When it comes to our engaged team members in Q1, we had a lot of events that allowed our team members to either participate in activities on property or volunteer their time off property with respect to the property. So first you'll see during Heart Health Month, we host a blood drive with the Red Cross monthly on property, but you'll see this month we actually did some trainers and got some of our folks certified with heart health and then also with CPR certifications. On Valentine's Day, while we were also ensuring that we were promoting a healthy lifestyle, we also did provide probably one of the sweetest candies ever to our guests in Nearest North at the cotton candy machine, giving out cotton candy on Valentine's Day. We also partnered with the American Cancer Society with their Voices education. And so Voices is a program that really educates women of color on promotion of awareness for self-checks. And so we had the opportunity, Jennifer and I had the opportunity to partner on behalf of PPC with the American Cancer Society. We also hosted an International Women's Day event that was open to the public through the Chamber of Commerce here at property. We had really great speakers panel out for that. And we continue to recruit for diverse candidates and also for younger candidates that are looking to start their culinary experience with JWO. And here on and I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that we too, like the other two properties, did support Problem Gambling Awareness Month with Game Sense, and our team members were included in educational activities along with awareness and contests too. On our final people slide, this is specifically our volunteer time out in the community. And so we partnered with the Old Colony Habitat for their property build in Q1. And then we also partnered with the YMCA. They are doing a Boston Marathon fundraiser. And actually one of my employees, Christina Fournier, actually ran the marathon, completed the marathon on behalf of the YMCA, and met all of the fundraising contributions needed to get her number. So super excited for Christina there. A milestone, first marathon ever, which was the Boston Marathon, and completed it, and back to work 2 days later. And then finally, we had the opportunity to partner with the International Women's Day breakfast out of Boston that hosted the mayor. And as you could see, we did see our commissioners there and your team there. We also had our partnership with the American Cancer Society there on behalf of expressing, why that is important. So, Jen and I have been on that committee probably for the last 3 or 4 years, and just super excited to be able to partner on such an amazing event. With that, one final note, and I know we're going to present it in Q2, but as Memorial Day approaches on Monday, this weekend, we get to partner with Rolling Thunder. And if you remember over the years, Rolling Thunder is a group of veteran bicyclers or veteran motorcyclists that do the ride to the Memorial Wall down in Fall River. They leave from our property. And this year we expect about 500 bikers to be with us on Saturday and Sunday. So on Saturday, they do a memorial, just a club memorial, and then they have a welcome party. But on Sunday, they all join us around 9 o'clock, and biker clubs that are part of Rolling Thunder, along with other motorcycle clubs, including the Blue Knights, including the firemen, motorcyclists, and it is open to the public for the riders. Again, they'll depart property. Kickstands are up at 12, but they celebrate with us the flag raising, the memorial ceremony, the recognition in regards to men missing in action, and also POWs. And so it's a full day, because once they leave us, they're going to ride down the Fall River, and then they're going to return to us, and they'll have a couple of bands. One of the bands is an all veteran band, and then one of the bands is a Whiskey 6, which is a country band. And so we'll do the celebration for Memorial Day, recognizing, and again, we'll have those pictures in Q2, but did want to share that in case anyone is a cyclist and wants to join the group. And so with that, I'll turn it back over to North.
Yeah. Thank you, Kathy. And so, yeah, as we head into the Memorial Day weekend, I know for all of us, we're excited to celebrate the official start of summer. Working with Rolling Thunder, it is always a reminder to me, though, that Memorial Day is about people who have made significant sacrifices and laid down their life for the country. So as we continue to work with that organization, it is truly an honor to work with them. I will tell you, it is quite a sight to see. The town of Plainville, the fire department brings in an enormous flag that it takes a ladder truck for them to post, that they put over our exit as people come out. So if you're not able to be there in person, we'll certainly post it on social media, but it is a great event for the day. With that, we conclude our presentation. We're happy to answer any questions that you guys may have this morning for us.
Thank you, North, and thank you for the reminder on how important Memorial Day is, and congratulations to you and your family.
Appreciate it.
And best of luck. Commissioners, any questions, comments? I see Commissioner O'Brien.
No, just adding my congratulations to you, North. That's an accomplishment. That's great. And then to Kathy, just a hats off to. I was at that breakfast. That's a lot of work that goes into that. I think you may need another venue next time. It was pretty well attended. We had a sort of surprise appearance from Mayor Wu. We thought we were going to see recording, and she came in with her infant. That was pretty amazing. So a plug for anybody who hasn't been to the event. It's a really good day.
Sounds like it was a great opportunity. All right. Well, I think that's it. I'll say go Army and Navy.
Beat Navy.
Right. Maybe I'll go to one of those. I should have went to the one that was here, but I couldn't get tickets. It was hard to come by.
They are hard.
All right. Well, with that, I believe we are going to turn it. Anything else, Chief Delaney, before we go?
No, that is it for the Community Affairs Division today. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Delaney, and to your team for gathering all this information and presenting it to us. And we appreciate all the properties for that quarterly report. And as always, look forward to the next one. With that, I believe we are going to turn it over to the Director of Research and Responsible Gaming, Director Mark Vanderlinden. Commissioners, are we good, or do we need a? All right, we're going to move forward with that.
Great. Good morning, Chair Maynard. Good morning, Commissioners. I am joined this morning by Kathleen Zegda. She is the Senior Director of Community Research and Evaluation with the Public Health Institute of Western Massachusetts. It's good to see you, Kathleen. You have presented to the Commission, but it's been a number of years. So welcome back. The Public Health Institute of Western Massachusetts, along with the Springfield Public School Districts, led efforts to conduct the Springfield Youth Health Survey and the Springfield Youth Risk Behavior Survey with 8th, 10th, and 12th graders. The Commission originally provided funding for this through our annual research agenda back in 2019 after MGM Springfield opened, in order to add enhanced gambling questions to understand more about youth gambling behavior and relationship to other health issues. Kathleen is going to share with you some of the data that was collected in these two surveys. Without further ado, because I know she has a fantastic presentation, I'm just going to turn it right over to you, Kathleen.
Thank you, Mark. Good morning, Chair Maynard and commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. It's been really great to have the support to be able to do this and to work with Mark and Bonnie. And so I'm going to share some of what we found from our youth surveys and the questions on gambling. So I'm going to share screen. Okay, can you see my screen? Okay, so first a little bit about the Public Health Institute of Western Mass. I'm not sure if you're familiar with us, but our mission is to support communities to become measurably healthier and more equitable through community engagement, convening of partners, communications, data analysis, research and evaluation, and policy advocacy. So a little bit first about the Springfield Youth Health Survey Initiative. So the goal of this initiative is to use data for action to support youth health in Springfield. And so it was a partnership effort that began in 2014 with the Springfield Public Schools, with the City of Springfield Department of Health and Human Services, our local prevention coalition through Gandhara Center, the Stop Access Coalition, and other community organizations. And you'll see on the right, this is our data and action framework that we used. We actually work with the Mass Department of Public Health on their Community Health Equity Initiative and created this for our collaborative work together. And as part of this, we were really focusing on partnering with community in doing this, and then also youth voice in the process. So we've had youth who have worked with us over the years in helping us even design the survey, and then also collaboratively understand what the findings are and what we can do to support change. And so as Mark mentioned, for 8th grade, we do the youth health survey. And so that's a modified version that the state administers, the Mass Department of Public Health. They do this in collaboration with DESE. And then the Youth Risk Behavior Survey, which is for the 10th and 12th grade students, and it's a modified version that is, again, administered by the state, but we modify it so that to include questions on local priorities as well. And the reason we decided to start this is, though the state does this for state estimates, it does not provide local estimates. So it really helps us to understand our local community. And we've really appreciated, as I mentioned, the Gaming Commission funding, and then also other funders who've helped support this work over time. So as Mark mentioned, the Gaming Commission funded this work, and they did so in 2019, is the initial funding that was provided after the opening of MGM. As Mark mentioned, I had presented to the commission before, and part of that was after we had done the Western Mass Casino Health Impact Assessment, and that was when the decisions were being made about where to site a casino in Western Massachusetts. And there are a lot of community concerns about introducing a casino. So that helped to inform decisions related to that. And so really appreciate, as I mentioned, the support and adding expanded questions around gambling, because there's an interest in understanding the impact of a casino on youth gambling behavior and gambling in general, legalized gambling in the state and the impact of youth gambling behavior. And as I'm sure everyone is aware, as we think about this and discuss this, and I share a little about the prevalence of gambling in the 8th and 10th and 12th grade students, gambling at a young age is a risk factor for problematic gambling later in life. So just thinking about that as we go through. So as Mark mentioned, we added additional gambling questions to understand the prevalence of gambling, and also screening questions, a series of 3 screening questions to understand prevalence of problematic gambling. So just to give you a sense of our methods, because it does have implications for interpreting the data, especially when we're looking over time. It's evolved in our partnership work together. And so when looking at some of the data over time that I'm going to share, we've moved to electronic surveying, which has been great in 2017, and then changed the survey so that we had splits, so students to make it shorter and less time for them to participate in an effort to increase participation rates. We have randomized modules that students are then, they receive as part of it. And the one note I will say is that, again, we've had pretty good participation rates amongst 8th grade students, and have worked really closely with the schools to increase that over time. 10th and 12th, not as good. And in 2021, it was remote schooling. So you'll notice a dip in some of the various estimates, and the participation rates were low during that time because students were taking it home during remote schooling. And this year we switched to a fall administration. So just some context as I share about the data. This year, we had a really good participation rate among 8th grade students. So this was this past fall, we had 80%, and then about 58% around for the 10th and 12th grade students. So when we share over time, we focus primarily on 8th grade students, just because we know that we aren't, there's biases given the lower participation rate in 10th and 12th grade students, and also that amongst those who we aren't, the lower participation rate and those who aren't participating, likely students are more at risk, those who are chronically absent. So just something to keep in mind as I go through the data. So these are the types of gambling that are included on the Springfield, both the Youth Health Survey for 8th grade students and then the Youth Risk Behavior Survey for 10th and 12th grade students. And so there's questions about lottery tickets, questions around sports betting. And then this year, this past year, it went from in the past, which was one question about sports betting in general, to 4 different questions. Questions about playing card games, games of skill, opening or buying a loot box in video games. And that was one that we added based on youth, young adult feedback. So there's a group in Springfield that the Gaming Commission has supported in the past called Gary, and it's worked young adults and youth who are involved in some participatory research. And this, they felt strongly, should be added to the survey. And so we added this. And there's, as you're probably aware, there's research showing an association between loot boxes and gambling and risk for problem gambling. Gambling online without using money, gambling online with money, betting money on horse races, playing bingo for money, and playing slot machines, table casino, or table games at a casino. So this is gambling prevalence over time. And this is 8th grade students on the top in orange, and then combined 10th and 12th grade students. And so you'll see, and I just want to say, again, there's been some changes in questions over time. So just to keep that in mind as you're looking at this, that approximately 58% of students, 8th grade students, reported gambling this past year in the previous 12 months, and 48% of 10th and 12th. And I would say that, again, given what I had shared about the participation rates, that likely this is an underestimate for the 10th and 12th grade students. And you'll also see there's been an increase over time. So as I mentioned, we added in the loot box questions. So because that is not something that's necessarily asked about in the statewide surveys as well, we also, this is the prevalence and included without the loot boxes included. So basically, if they answered yes to any of those questions about any of those types of gambling, then they had gambled in the past year. And so without including loot boxes, you'll see still an increase as well. So the most common types of gambling, so again, orange is 8th grade students, gray is 10th and 12th, are games of skill, playing cards, any sports betting, and using loot boxes. And again, similarly, lower for 10th and 12th, likely an underestimate, but those are still the same most common types of gambling that we're seeing amongst the students in 10th and 12th who are participating. And so this is for 8th grade, the most commonly reported types of gambling over time. And so I know there's a lot in the slide. Orange is playing card games for money. Gray is games of skill, this light gray, dark gray opening loot boxes, lottery tickets, bingo. Sports gambling, we combined the 4 questions for this year because it was separated into 4 into if they responded yes on any of them, and then gambling with online money in blue. And so you'll notice that there's an increase in sports gambling with roughly, and that was on the previous slide, but over 25% in 2024. And then the loot boxes as well, an increase in that. And then amongst the others, roughly staying the same. except a decrease in the playing card games for money. And again, there's been some differences in some of the questions over time for these types of gambling. We work closely with Mark and Bonnie as we're trying to, one, it's a long survey and having students complete the survey, and two, just being responsive to some of the things that they're seeing, we're seeing, the young people are seeing too, and asking us to speak to. So I don't include this one for 10th and 12th, again, just because the participation rates are lower. And over time, trending over time isn't as helpful. So for sports gambling, again, with the legalization of sports gambling and seeing that increase, these are the most common, these are the percentages who reported these different types of sports gambling. So 17% reported offline sports betting of 8th grade students. And again, you'll see it's lower for 10th and 12th, but again, lower participation rates, likely an underestimate. 10% 8th grade students reported online sports betting, 14% fantasy sports betting, and 8% fantasy sports betting with money. So when we looked at, okay, are there differences in terms of identity? Students reported identity and gambling. We looked at gender identity, we looked at race and ethnicity, and we looked at LGBTQ status. And there weren't significant differences except for by gender. And similar to as in the literature, we see a higher prevalence of gambling amongst male students than female students. We also saw a higher prevalence amongst students who reported they were non-binary, genderqueer, or questioning compared to female students as well. And a similar in 10th and 12th, we saw those same differences. So as I mentioned, we have a series of 3 questions that are, we use as screening questions. That is from a paper by Lepper et al., and which Mark and Bonnie worked with us to add these questions. And a way to be able to understand, okay, we have these students and we understand gambling and gambling being early on a risk factor for later gambling. What is the prevalence or estimated prevalence of problematic gambling? And so this is for 8th grade students. And you'll see this orange line is problematic gambling over time. So in 2024, approximately 11% of students screened positive for problematic gambling. This is 8th grade students. It's slightly higher than over time looking at it, but that is some of that could be attributed to fluctuations in participation rates. But it's still consistently, I mean, it is potentially something to explore more in terms of increases, but roughly 1 in 10 students. And then for 10th and 12th grade, 9%. And again, given the challenges with, as we continue to work on increasing participation rates, likely underestimates. And so, but still with the students who did participate, 9% screened positive for problematic gambling this past year. So thank you. And thank you for the opportunity. I appreciated the invitation from Mark and Bonnie to come and share with you all. I want to open it up for questions. Oh, and I will just say we have a lot of information on our website about methods, different products we've created. We're still working from this past year on creating some summary documents. All the frequency reports are on our website for all the questions as well. So I'm going to stop sharing and open it up for questions.
Thank you so much. Commissioners, questions on this interesting data?
I have a question, but I noticed Commissioner O'Brien had her microphone off first.
Commissioner O'Brien.
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you very much for this. I'm, interested and concerned about the age group, right? Particularly young males that are sort of in middle school, high school, and the balance of getting this information and educating them without enticing. So I'm sure this is a very hard line for you guys to walk, and I thank you for what you're doing. The question that I also had about the middle school being higher than the 10th, you said you largely attribute that to the disparity in responses and the quantity of the responses. Is there any possibility or way of determining whether part of that is also how long that this has been part of mainstream culture? I mean, when you go back to 8th graders, sports betting in particular was legalized when they were in, first grade, as opposed to maybe being a little bit further on. Is there any indication that that's part of what this is, that the normalization of it and how it infiltrates down is going to have an impact on their participation or their perceived appropriateness of sports betting, DFS, gambling?
Yeah, that is an excellent question. It's the data itself cannot tell us that. And I would say, I think this is a great example of given our partnership with some of the group in Springfield and some young people who are doing this, youth working in this area. I would love to take this back to them as something to consider is just given, the 8th grade students and what's they were exposed to and as more normalized as they were developing, and see their thoughts on it as well. So it's an excellent question.
Okay, great. No, I'd love to see what responses you get. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Brien. We'll now go with Commissioner Hill and then Commissioner Broder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll just be very brief. I think I know the answers, but I'd rather hear them from you. You're the professional dealing with this. I was a little surprised to see the decrease in 10th and 12th, but I think you explained why that is, and the fact that maybe they are doing it and just not telling us. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, and also just because our participation rates are just not as high, you can't really look at it over time because those most at risk aren't taking the survey likely. So I was hesitant to show really any of the 10th and 12th over time. We typically don't, but I thought I would give you more than less and then share the constraints around it.
The information is great. So I remember back in the day when I'll say my son or my daughter's age group, which they're in their 20s and 30s now, but back in the high school days, we had a lot of card games going on in people's basements. And, instead of going out drinking, they were out playing cards, in groups. And it was mostly, as your stat showed, it was mostly the male that were doing it. But now, and I remember that on TV, on ESPN, Fox Sports, CBS Sports, every night there was a Texas Hold'em tournament going on, and the kids were really getting into it, and they were watching it over and over. And I've now seen that now that sports wagering is happening, and we're seeing that on TV now more than we are even the card games, we see that increase in sports betting. The question I have, it's got to be happening illegally. They're not of age to be gambling. So are they going through parents? I mean, do we have that type of data? How are they illegally sports betting at this point? Is it through a bookie? Is there somebody in the school who's pushing this issue?
I think that's an excellent question. I'm not sure the answer to that, but that's another great question I can take back. And as we work with several different youth groups, and I think beginning to explore some of these questions that you all are raising.
Because I saw the offline sports betting, and I noticed that for me was significantly high, which that tells me that they're not online. They're doing it somewhere. So it would be nice to know where the somewhere is. Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'll let my other fellow commissioners ask their questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill. And a reminder that the illegal market can permeate beyond just gambling age adults. Commissioner Broder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not so much a question as a comment or a statement. I do wonder, pursuant to Commissioner Hill's statement, if the football card is still a thing, which is a thing from when I was a kid, many moons ago, when it was an actual thing on paper that you filled out and played some games against the spread. Kathleen, I don't expect you to have good information on that. I do want to thank you and the Public Health Institute of Western Mass for this work, and I want to talk about how proud I am of this commission for supporting it, because it's no secret that youth surveys, in particular the Youth Risk Behavior Survey, is the subject of some pushback of late. And I think that is, quite frankly, incredibly short-sighted. In order to understand what's going on, you need data. If you don't have data, you have an uninformed opinion, and that is not helpful in terms of moving the needle on issues that we care about. And the data is only as good as the participation, as you've noted with some of the concerns around 10th and 12th grade data. But it's critical to get that younger cohort data, because in my opinion, hopefully an informed opinion, if you wait in terms of educational interventions until 10th or 12th grade, you're missing the boat. It's quite frankly, it's already too late. So engaging at that level, as uncomfortable as it sometimes is across a range of issues, is super, super important. I also want to note that, you mentioned impacts on communities, in particular Springfield, with the introduction of the siting of the casino in Springfield. But with the introduction of sports gaming and its growing prevalence, that data is something every community public health entity should be interested in and want. So I applaud the work, and I understand the limits on where our resources can go, the commission's resources. It really is something that every community should be interested in, concerned about, and interested in. So again, not so much questions, but thank you for your work, and just a shout out of an endorsement for the Youth Risk Behavior Survey and those type of surveys, and how important they are.
Thank you, Commissioner Broder. Commissioner Skinner.
I want to echo some of Commissioner Broder's sentiments. First, in thanking Dr. Kathleen. I'm not going to try to pronounce your last name because I will botch it. But kudos to you and your team and the city of Springfield for having the mind to venture a little bit outside of what's being provided in terms of the survey across the rest of the state. I think it is important, and I think that you've demonstrated how important it is to get ahead of the problem, particularly where it's most meaningful in the community, where the at least the brick and mortar casino is located. And so look forward to hearing more from your group. I wish you well in obtaining additional funding that's going to be necessary to continue to carry out your work as the sports wagering and gambling in general continues to proliferate. And looking forward to partnering with you and other organizations across Massachusetts who are interested in this area as well, to understand, where we go from here. We have the data, and that's only half of the consideration. It really is, what do we do with it, knowing what we know today, given these responses. So once again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Skinner. Before I let the doctor respond, I'll just add, I agree with all my fellow commissioners, what they said and what they asked. And I'll say that I would highlight that it only proves the need for the Attorney General's youth sports betting initiative that the Commission's been engaged with. And we appreciate the work that the Attorney General and those groups are doing around this for that reason. And I agree with Commissioner Broder. At the end of the day, give us the data. You know, it's a data point. We'll weigh it with everything else, and we'd rather have it than not have it. And so we appreciate you you bringing it and presenting it, and for all the students that participated in it, we also appreciate that. With that, feel free to respond or make any final comments.
Yeah, well, I appreciate all your thoughts and your comments, and of course, we believe so strongly on the importance of data and helping it to making sure it's we're supporting it getting into the hands of people and or supporting the efforts themselves to make change. And so I appreciate you lifting that up as well. And as I said, Mark and Bonnie have been wonderful support and helping us to think about how we, tweak the questions, interpret the information for this, and then as we work with our partners in Springfield who are on the ground doing the work to get it in their hands. So thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Anything? Could I say just two points?
I would never move forward without you having the last word, Director Vanderlyn.
Thank you. One, it's a great partnership with Public Health Institute of Western Massachusetts. The Commission's involvement going back to the community health impact work that they did before there was even a license in Springfield. So I think that's important. The community health survey, these two surveys are in a significant undertaking, and it's filled with other health data. And that I think are really is really important to have data-driven responses, including gambling and understanding the intersection of gambling and other health issues. And so we're scratching the surface on this and what Kathleen was able to present. And then finally, Commissioner Hill and Commissioner O'Brien, I think you asked two really good questions about sort of more qualitative types of questions. And the power of our research agenda is that we have multiple projects that are happening, including, I think, 3 other research projects that are touching on young adults gambling. And hopefully some of those questions can come out, including the work that is being done by the Springfield Health Department through Community Mitigation Fund. NORC is doing a project, and Suffolk University is doing a project. So, and this is the first data that is coming forward. So I look forward to, hopefully we'll keep this in mind as when we hear a report out from the other projects as well. So thank you. And thank you, Kathleen.
So thank you, Dr. Bonnie. Thank you, Dr. Kathleen. And Commissioners, anything else for Mark? Are we good continuing on to item number 7? All right. Before we begin the next item, I want to say that this commission prides itself on being educated and prudent when making decisions. It's my hope that the public knows that this item is not intended to generate sound bites, nor to spotlight other public officials. We don't like it when other people wade into our jurisdiction, so we should be hesitant to do the same. That said, this is an opportunity to learn and prepare for certain realities and what is happening today. I also want to take this as an opportunity to remind the public that if you choose to wager, the safest place in the Commonwealth to do so is with our robustly regulated operators. You can find those operators listed on our MGC website, and online sports operators have a Massachusetts seal of approval that links back to that website. With that, we'll go to item number 7, and we're going to turn to Councilor Justin Stempick and Chief Teresi.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. I'm here today to speak about prediction markets. Just before we get started, The goal of this presentation today is really a sort of prediction markets 101 style education. We're not making any recommendations or asking for a vote. This is really an opportunity to sort of lay the foundation for what these entities are, what they do, how they're regulated, and why perhaps you've been seeing a lot of news about them in the past couple months. So that being said, just jumping right in, what are prediction markets? So at their most basic, prediction markets are platforms where people can take a monetary position on a real world future event. So that could be almost any type of future event that you can imagine. It could be the yearly revenue of a publicly traded company. It could be a political election. It could be who's going to win the Oscars, the Grammys. It could be the weather. There's a wide variety of different events that are up on various prediction markets for taking positions on. Prediction markets operate with what's called an event contract, which is essentially a $1 value contract, which you can take a yes or no position on that event occurring. So that's for a fraction of the dollars. When the contract resolves, it pays out to the individual that was ultimately correct on the accuracy of the prediction. So I'm particularly proud of the example given our current weather in New England. For example, imagine an event contract on whether it's going to rain every Saturday of June in Boston. If an individual buys a yes position on 100 contracts for 30 cents each, and if that it would rain on every Saturday of June in Boston, that individual would earn $1 per contract or $100 on a $30 investment. So they'd have a $70 profit. If the individual was wrong, they would lose the $30 at the contract resolution. I found that the sort of a practical application helped me better understand this. Different platforms have a different variety of fee structures. So the platforms are essentially hosting the event contracts. So they're not like a sports book in terms of taking the wager themselves. They're providing a mechanism to match somebody on a yes side of an event contract with somebody on the no side of an event contract. So they're really kind of they provide the arena, and the participants come to the arena and they can wager on either side. They take various fees that vary by platform. So some take a percentage of the contract, some take a set amount of each contract, some have profit-based fees, and some have withdrawal fees. It really depends upon which event contract platform you're using. The regulation of prediction markets is fairly complicated, and it's quite different from what we're used to in the gaming sphere. They're regulated by the Commodities Futures Trading Commission, or the CFTC. So see, the CFTC, as many of you may know, regulates derivatives market, including many different financial instruments, such as futures, like prediction markets, as well as options and swaps. So this is just one arrow in their quiver of everything that they need to regulate. They oversee the trading of futures and option contracts, as well as exchanges where the trades take place. And there's different types of certification or licensure beneath the CFTC, depending upon what you're doing in this space. So if you were, for instance, interested in becoming a regulated prediction market in the US, you'd have to be approved as what's called a designated contract market, or DCM. So that's a standard that's established by the CFTC. There's a process for submitting an application. There's some similarities to how we license operators or vendors in our space. But these are all outlined under the Commodity Exchange Act, and there's 23 core principles that are set forth that a company would have to meet as part of their application process. Some of the more relevant ones when you're looking at these are compliance with the law. They have to follow the Commodity Exchange Act and CFTC regulations. They have to have fair and transparent governance structures. They have to have publicly available trading information, fair market access. They have to take steps to prevent market manipulation, including surveillance of their platforms. They have to have well-defined contracts so that they're clear and enforceable. They have to ensure proper risk management and margining processes, and they have to have a process for dispute resolution. So after a applicant is approved by the CFTC, they do undergo periodic audits and inspections, and they have to adapt to rule changes and new regulatory requirements, very similar to our gaming operators when we promulgate new regulations. Now, the differences between prediction markets and sports wagering is an interesting and evolving space. There, at first glance, there's obviously quite an overlap if you're talking about a prediction market in the sports wagering space, because at the end of the day, both involve a party putting money on the outcome of a future unknown for the chance to win. The most significant difference, I would say, between the two is that prediction markets offer the platform, whereas in sports wagering, the individual is betting against the house. Similarly, in sports betting, the operator sets the odds, while in prediction markets, the contract prices are moving to reflect the likelihood of the event occurring and fluctuate based on the buying and selling of contracts during the event. The regulation of prediction markets is also quite different than the regulation of sports wagering operators, which we are all familiar with. After the repeal of PASPA, with states were empowered to regulate sports wagering, and over the past 7 years, the majority of the US has now legalized sports wagering and created their own detailed regulatory schemes to do so. In contrast, the regulation by the CFTC is one regulator, one federal regulator, and one set of, in comparison to gaming regulations, relatively light touch regulation. The CFTC regulations differ in a number of ways from what we are familiar with in the gaming regulatory sphere. In CFTC prediction markets, individuals can participate at age 18, which is, contrast that with 21 in the vast majority of gaming jurisdictions. In the CFTC event contract space, there are no responsible gaming features like deposit limits, wager limits, self-exclusion tools, or cooling off periods. I think the position is it's not gaming, so that those don't exist. DCMs, designated contract markets, can self-certify new markets by sending a certification letter to the CFTC. So say a DCM wants to offer a market on I don't know, whether there's going to be a thunderstorm tomorrow. They would simply send a letter to the CFTC, and if they don't hear back, they can add that market within 24 hours. I mean, contrast that with what we do when we get a new request from an operator to add a sports market, and they have to come before us and present it, and hit various check boxes with us to make sure that we are comfortable with the addition of that to their wagering catalog. Tax treatment is quite different from event contracts and gambling winnings. States also don't receive any tax dollars from DCMs. It's a federal regulator. The DCM itself, the company, would generally be taxed as a for-profit business entity. The AML standards for the DCMs are not as strict as regulated gaming space. They're generally not subject to Bank Secrecy Act. They don't have to file suspicious activity reports. The KYC protocols are lighter than we have in the gaming space. I mean, you can create an account on one of these DCMs, generally with a name, address, and social security number. The current controversy, which I'm not going to dive too deep into because there's quite a bit of complex legal material here, and many attorneys are currently fighting this out in a variety of different courts. But perhaps the best known event wagering platform at present is a company named Kalshi. Kalshi began offering sports event contracts on its exchange, and a number of gaming regulators have now sent cease and desist letters. To date, regulators in Nevada, New Jersey, Illinois, Maryland, Ohio, and Montana have sent such letters. And also, just by way of breaking news and emblematic of how quickly this space is moving, I believe it was, let's find the citation here. InGame.com reported today that Arizona regulators also sent a cease and desist letter just yesterday. So we have now 7 states that have sent cease and desist letters to Kalshi. In response, Kalshi has started litigation against Nevada, New Jersey, and Maryland, winning preliminary injunctions in Nevada and New Jersey for the right to continue to offer its products as litigation continues. There are a wide variety of, as I mentioned, complex legal arguments surrounding federalism and whether a federal regulatory body in the space would trump the state regulation. That is currently being hashed out in courts with compelling arguments, I would say, on both sides here. The primary argument is really issued by Kalshi is that the Commodity Exchange Act is going to trump the state laws on sports wagering. The CFTC has not yet taken an official position here. The CFTC did have a planned roundtable for late April, which was canceled. Recent reporting indicates the CFTC is having a small roundtable with some tribal entities in this space, and that's news from just within the past day or so as well. So obviously, this is a fast-moving space. There are a lot of complex legal issues, but this is really just meant to put everybody on the same foundation in terms of understanding what prediction markets are. And I'm happy to answer any questions I can with some caveat that I am not a corporate securities lawyer, and I have been learning over the past few months as much as I can about the space so that I can better inform the commission. But happy to answer anything I'm able to right now.
Thank you, Counselor Stempick. Commissioners, questions for Counselor Stempick? Commissioner O'Brien?
I don't have any questions for public consumption other than I want to thank you for it. And then I want to sort of keep getting apprised. I'm sure everyone else feels the same way too, right? Is sort of the status of the litigation that's pending. I know there's certain criterion under the federal board, right, in terms of whether it falls under some of this or not. But obviously an area that's quickly changing. The landscape is quickly changing. And so I think we would all want to continue to get updated on it.
Absolutely.
Agreed. Commissioner Broder?
100% agree. As one minor question that isn't directly on point with sports contracts, but is it correct that some of these operators also offered election contracts and that the CFTC initially objected, but then I think dropped their objections?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Commissioner Broder. In the fall, Kalshi got a lot of press for offering election markets on the presidential election. Initially, the CFTC at that time challenged Kalshi on that front. It started its way through the court system, and then just within the past, I think 3 weeks, the CFTC has dropped that litigation against Kalshi with respect to the election contracts.
Yeah, it's another demonstration of how in flux this whole situation is, right?
Yeah, and even the leadership of the CFTC, I think I just read recently that they've had some commissioners leave, so they're, I think, down to only 2 commissioners now, and they're going to have a turnover in their chair as well. So there's a lot of things are certainly in flux right now.
And those are presidential appointees, I assume, like the SEC or the FTC or all the alphabet soup of agencies.
Yeah, the chair, the last I read, the chair will have to go before the Senate for an approval. It seems like that has been pushed out slightly, so it may not be till late summer when we see that individual appointed.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks for this update. It's terrific stuff.
Thank you, Commissioner Broder. Any further questions? All right. Thank you, Counselor Stempick, and thank you to Chief Teresi for that information. And with that, commissioners, are we good to move on to the next topic? All right, we're going to go to item number 8. And for that, we're going to stick with, I think, Counselor Stempick, Counselor Young, and Chief Teresi. This is pulling an item that had been sitting around off our agenda for a while. And that's sports wagering, advertising research, saturation prohibitions in the US and abroad. So who's taking the lead on that?
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners.
Good morning.
I will be taking points, and I'm sure that Carrie and Justin will jump in at some point to add any sort of sentiment they have. So today we're here to share the results of our jurisdictional research conducted by myself and members of the Legal and Sports Wagering divisions, specifically as it relates to saturation of advertisements during live sporting events and other relevant prohibitions. So starting first with General Laws 23N, Section 4C, which imparts a duty upon the Commission to regulate sports wagering advertising, including those ads that are considered unacceptable or disruptive, specifically at live sporting events. The Commission promulgated 205 CMR 256, to establish standards for the advertising, marketing, and branding of sports wagering ads, and specifically to ensure responsible practices, protect consumers, more specifically minors and vulnerable populations. So based on the statute, our research did not examine prohibitions on other forms of ads, including social media, print media, buses, trains, ads that you might see on billboards. Specifically, our research objective was to examine how saturation was measured and regulated in other jurisdictions and what was considered excessive. I would say that we do have our own regulatory foundation. 205 CMR 256.08 subsection 2 prohibits showing advertisements at sporting events with such intensity or frequency that they represent a saturation of that medium or become excessive. So starting first at home in the United States, I would note that there are no current specific regulations that govern the volume or frequency of sports wagering ads within sporting events at the federal level. That's probably not a surprise to anyone here on this call. I will note that the American Gaming Association, or the AGA, has established a responsible gaming marketing code for sports wagering, which encourages operators and any sort of marketing affiliates to maintain responsible advertising practices. So with that in mind, my jurisdictional research kind of combed the United States and tried to see if there were any other jurisdictions that examined saturation or had any specific metric. And unfortunately, it doesn't appear that we have any other regulatory agencies out there who have provided a metric or a model in determining what is specifically excessive or what is saturation of the media. I will note that our types of sports wagering prohibitions or regulations seem to fall into 5 main categories. So I'll list those out for you and give you kind of an example for each one. The first and most frequent are restrictions targeting minors. So prohibitions regarding the content or what is within the ad, the placement or the audience who would most likely view the ad and where it's displayed. And then lastly, advertisements that consider themselves endorsements and may specifically cater towards younger audiences are heavily prevalent across the United States. Next, then, the second most prevalent type of regulatory prohibition would be those that prohibit false, misleading, or deceptive advertising. These are those ads that, might flirt with the content of being risk-free betting, enticing someone to get rich very quickly, or specifically saying that, there is no losing in sports betting. Those are very popular prohibitions and exist across the country. Next, down the line, we have the required inclusion of responsible gaming messaging, meaning that regulatory bodies similar to the Commission would require that all sports wagering ads that air within a specific jurisdiction have responsible gaming messaging, a responsible gaming phone number, or some combination, of the two. Next and least, I'd say a little bit more rare, are a few regulatory bodies, including Washington, D.C., and a few others out in the Western jurisdiction of the United States that require pre-approval of ads before a promotion or an advert is actually displayed within a jurisdiction. And then lastly, and most rare, are the volume and frequency regulations similar to our own 256.08 subsection 2. Those are regulations or prohibitions that attempt to monitor or curb how often an ad is shown or the amount of times an ad is shown, particularly during a sporting event. So those were incredibly rare. I would say it's ourselves and the state of Virginia, that have gone as far as to put specifically within regulation and language to prohibit oversaturation. So coming up short, I asked Deputy General Counsel Stempick and Chief Teresi if I could continue my journey abroad, at least through research, and see what was happening outside of the country, given that wagering is a little bit more historic and has been going on for longer abroad. So that first brought me to the United Kingdom. My research yielded a voluntary whistle-to-whistle ban that was implemented in 2019. So during live gameplay, specifically football or soccer gameplay, no ads were televised during live sporting events that aired before 9 p.m. There were also content restriction prohibitions, in which case no athletes or influencers who were under the age of 25 were permitted to appear in ads themselves. Ads were required to show responsible gaming messages as well. There were some limitations to these types of advertisement restrictions, mostly noted by responsible gaming critics in the United Kingdom. So specifically, these limitations didn't cover in-stadium or in-venue signage. Social media ads were not necessarily covered by this restriction. It didn't necessarily pertain to endorsements that might be displayed on television based on being on a soccer player's kit or uniform. And it also didn't cover or attempt to regulate any sort of in-game promotions that would happen that were advertised during, say, a halftime break or a timeout incident. So there were some holes or some metrics. It's also worthy of mention that there was kind of a rise or an ebb in ads that were shown in advance of a football game or after a football game, just based on when ads couldn't be displayed. So something to consider there. My research then brought me over to, or I guess I should say down to Australia, with a time-based ban similar to Whistle, but a bit more thorough in terms of content and placement. So Australia bans any sort of sports wagering ads between 5 a.m. and 8:30 p.m. Gambling ads were not permitted to link any sort of social consumption with gambling. So that would include alcohol or any sort of child-focused messaging. It also barred inclusion of athletes within ads that appeared younger. Australia shared oversight and regulation of this ban between federal and state regulators. So it was a commonality that would be different in specific areas within the country. I would also note here that there was an exclusion for horse racing. So ads were displayed for gambling within live thoroughbred racing, pre and post game shows that relied heavily on replays and game footage. And again, incidental advertising at venues, on jerseys, in bleachers, displayed on television while a game was playing were still regularly seen. So a high metric of a different type of gambling promotion was still displayed both here and other places abroad. So to kind of bring this back home and tee it up for discussion, I will note there is an absence of a clear definition of what constitutes saturation in the United States, and a specific exemplar, or I would say template, of how a regulatory body would go about to determine saturation. But I would say that the Commission has made a foundational standard for itself within 25608, subsection 2. And that does allow the Commission to do a few things. It can establish its own model for evaluating advertising practices based on their cumulative effect of the viewing experience. How many is too many? Ultimately, that would be up to the Commission to determine. Do we want to consider repeated exposures of the same ad? How often are ads falling within a specific time frame? Does this ad ultimately overwhelm the consumer? All of these types of questions can be used as a compendium or as a cumulative approach to considering player enjoyment, but most specifically public safety and consumer protection. The Commission can also issue its own guidance and specific examples to the public, including operators, to consider what constitutes saturation, and also sharing what it would consider in terms of its own enforcement criteria. So not to push this back on you, commissioners, but this is your ballpark, so to speak. So you have the power, but I will stop there. I feel I've been rambling. Thank you very much for allowing me this opportunity to go researching at home and abroad. I appreciate it. And I will stop there and allow for any sort of questions on the matter or additional remarks from Chief Teresi or DGC Stempick as well.
So thank you, Councilor Young. I will say as a prolific rambler, that was not rambling. Commissioners, questions, comments? Commissioner O'Brien.
So yeah, thank you for that, Judy. I know this has been a conversation we've been having since we drafted regulations, right? What's the explicit mandate in terms of sports wagering? we also started having some conversation about advertising and restrictions for the brick and mortar actually before sports where 23 was passed in 2022. So I'd love for us to have sort of a broader conversation too about what does it mean, but I'm curious about sort of the Webster definition of saturation, right? The idea that at minimum, the idea that it's sort of overwhelming and displacing something else, right? That would be sort of a baseline understanding of that word. And whether we see circumstances where there's no room for anything else, either other companies or other products, right, being advertised in a particular location. And I throw out for discussion, maybe for your legal team too, going forward, the concept that while we have specific statutory directives in terms of this for inside play, right, so at the location at the time of the event, recognizing also, right, that with, federal preemption, there are restrictions on what we could do in terms of saying advertising is a saturation, the reality is sort of a national feed. But whether we can look at whether we want to give examples outside of sporting venues. Do we want to have a definition of saturation? We would get calls sometimes of people saying, I came off a bus or a train or whatever, and I was just smacked in the face with nothing but, ads for whatever. I'd love us to have that conversation too. So to keep going, I love sort of the European and the Australian approach to this. They're a little bit ahead of us. They've had exposure to this more than we do, right? They're sort of living this about a decade ahead of us. I think we can learn from them. I also would love for us to be creative in using advertising to educate. And I know that our responsible gaming team and GameSense does this. I don't know if anybody else from the office was on that webinar this morning that showed an initiative that the French regulatory body did, where they basically got a rap singer over there and they did their own version of, hey, here's the reality of, what could happen to you. And what kind of impact they had with that. And so food for thought in terms of not only saturation, but looking at how we can counter it potentially, right? To get responsible gaming messages out there at the same time. So thank you. And I guess my way of saying, I'm going to have you keep traveling because I want to do more and try to be creative. Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Brien. And I see Commissioner Broder's mic's off, and I think he was with the French today. Commissioner Broder?
He was not. He tried to be with the French today. So kudos to Commissioner O'Brien for being able to navigate the tech. I don't think I have Microsoft Teams embedded in my stuff yet, but I have been promised I will be able to see the recording. So stay tuned on that front. I love this. I mean, this work is tremendous. I think, to get to a point of understanding saturation, kind of like our last conversation, the data is going to be so important to compile, right? What is the nature of the advertising? There's so many different ways to do it. How well can we determine how it is being targeted? Obviously, we're very interested in protecting the youth non-market in particular, and knowing what the practices are out there with some real granular level of data for the US. I think it's going to be super important. One thing I want to ask you about is the challenge of European regulation or anywhere really outside of the United States is the First Amendment, right? No place else has that. And there's a different, and I'm not a constitutional scholar, Lord knows, there's a difference between political speech and commercial speech, but I assume, and I don't expect to have a detailed constitutional scholar answer, that's going to be a unique obstacle for us here in the United States, right?
Yes, it is a very unique consideration. And while I didn't necessarily include it in my research, it's something that we have been considering deeply within the legal division as we promulgate regulations, as we continue to taper and tinker with 256, just exactly, what we are able to do without inviting any sort of outrage or controversy. But I take your point, Commissioner. A little different how we do things over here than abroad,
Yeah,
for sure.
For sure. And I very much value state regulation, and I think most of this regulation should be at our level. But with advertising, I'm just trying to get my head around, like, so if, you know, a lot, particularly with the sports gaming online venue piece, right? These are national entities or close to national entities that are in multiple jurisdictions, working with national broadcast partners and things like that. How difficult is it, do you think, for a state to set up a set of rules that might impact effectiveness? By that I mean, I don't know how media is structured in other places, but it's like in the UK with the BBC, or if they kind of have, they can do that probably nationally with less government jurisdiction issues, right? Maybe I'm totally wrong about that. Whereas we go, all right, we don't want any advertising during in game. Well, I'm thinking whoever has the Super Bowl in any particular year is going, all right, you tell me how to carve out Massachusetts from that. That fair to say? That makes sense?
It's definitely an interesting consideration. And if you think back to the 5 types of regulations that there are, you can kind of get a sense of how they're constructed to be almost that inverse triangle of the commonality between more jurisdictions to have restrictions that do not target minors, or that make sure that, everyone displayed within the advertisement is 21. The ad's not necessarily being displayed in a place where folks under the age of 21 would be. And so how, not a regulatory body, excuse me, an operator that operates in more than one state can perhaps offer an advertisement that's tapered, that satisfies multiple jurisdictions' requirements of 21 and up. But as you keep going down that inverted triangle, where certain regulations are not as common across regs or across state lines, you might have to be a bit more concrete and concerted. So I think it's a definite approach in terms of difference and regulation, and how we don't necessarily have something at the national level. I will note that a few jurisdictions, top of mind, New York, has a reference to the FCC. And so in New York, sports wagering ads both have to be subject to the approval of the regulatory body there, but then also fit or comply within the FCC. So they've kind of specifically put operators on notice for that as well, which I thought was very well done.
And just to add quickly to that, Commissioner Broder, just from past experience, I can tell you that media buys are also a complex. The commercial aspect of this makes things more complicated, because you buy a media buy for a region, right? So if you know this, I'm sure Commissioner Hill knows this from living in sort of northern Mass. You can hear radio play for Southern New Hampshire. You can get television channels from other jurisdictions if you live near a border. So how do you police something that leaks across a fluid barrier, an artificial line on a map? So that's another challenge, but just wanted to add that piece.
And that's what's one thing. I don't want to invite preemption, Lord knows, but this is one of a few areas where I think a national rule or protocol or practice might be helpful, because it might take some of those issues off the table. It's one of the many things we all have to think about as we try to figure out what's the best way to protect folks here in Massachusetts.
Right.
Yeah. Thanks for this. I'm particularly also interested in hearing if that kind of the voluntary compliance piece in the UK with some of it. I mean, if that can work, tremendous. I mean, that would, if we can get, work with industry to make that happen, I think that would be terrific. But keep plugging away, because this is real super important stuff, obviously. Thanks for what you're doing.
My pleasure. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Broder. I see Commissioner O'Brien, is your mic off again?
I do, but I didn't know. I didn't want to jump ahead of anybody else who wanted to say or ask anything.
Nothing right
Good to
now.
go? Okay. Something that just came back from, PTSD of the sports wagering reg drafting episode. We had a number of meetings and roundtables with the media, right, and the professional sports teams in terms of their marketing and advertising. And I know some of them, if not all of them, have their own guidelines, right, in terms of saturation's not the word, right? But they're not going to do their ad buys and have the entire thing be, one company, one entity, one product. So something that might be helpful too is getting a sense for what the industry or the sports industry itself sets as what they think is acceptable in terms of frequency in a given time period. So sort of in addition to the Webster definition, getting a sense of what they do might also be helpful in this conversation.
We can certainly do that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Brien. You just clicked a memory in my head, which was Nessun was very clear about how many they were allowing and not allowing. And that was distinguishable from, I think, some of the national media too. I agree with Commissioner Broder, Commissioner O'Brien. This is a place where, again, not getting out of my lane, but FCC and FTC, there could probably be some guidance here. I think that's all I have on this matter. Besides the Webster definition, I would say maybe some data, like how many ad buys per days, right, are going out. I don't know if that exists anywhere, but if it does, I think that would be interesting, especially vis-a-vis those other international jurisdictions, so we can see kind of where they drew the line. I'm sure you've got it, Judy, but something we can look at in the future.
Definitely.
Anything else on this matter? I'm going to ask for just a 10-minute break. And then, so we will meet back around 12:20-ish.
Thanks very much, commissioners. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilor Young. Okay. Connor, I think we can take the screen down. Give everyone a second to get back. All right, I think everyone's back. With that, this is a reconvening of the Massachusetts Gaming Commission. We are holding this meeting virtually, so we will do a roll call. Good afternoon, Commissioner O'Brien.
Good afternoon. I'm here.
Good afternoon, Commissioner Hill.
Hello, I'm here.
Good afternoon, Commissioner Skinner.
Good afternoon.
And good afternoon, Commissioner Broder.
Good afternoon.
All right, we will pick up where we left off in the agenda, and that's item number 9. And for that, we are going to turn it to the Chief Financial and Accounting Officer, Derek Lennon, and his team.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Thank you for having us. I'm going to kick this right over to John Scully, and he's going to take this update today.
Hello, Chair and Commissioners. I am joined here today by CFAO Lennon and our Revenue Manager, Doug O'Donnell. Today, we are presenting the FY25 third quarter budget update. And it is truly just an update, as we are not asking for a vote. As an overview, you all approved an FY25 budget of $59.54 million. After 2 quarters of adjustments that are bulleted on page 1 of the memo, the total budget for the commission has been adjusted up slightly and now sits at $60.3 million. All right, so I will start with updates on our spending. For our gaming control fund, we have a budget of $40.02 million, and current spending is in line with projections. However, we are tracking some exposures, which we will continue to monitor. As discussed in our 2x2s, these exposures include the following, which are listed on page 2 of the memo. The Office of the Attorney General is requesting additional operational funding. The GEU of the Attorney General's office has also encountered a lengthy investigation which utilized a large portion of their overtime allotment. And finally, the MGC Information and Technology Division is looking at hardware equipment versus cloud solutions related to the recent data center. All right. We've identified savings related to GEU turnover, as well as payroll savings for positions that are still in process to be filled, which will help mitigate these additional costs. All right, and a quick update for racing. Previous adjustments made to shift applicable administrative costs to gaming and sports wagering have been effective. These adjustments have not only positioned racing for the start of the spring season, but allowed for COLAs for our racing seasonal staff. And then moving on to sports wagering. For the sports wagering control fund, current spending is projected to remain within the $11.66 million approved budget. Staff have also identified areas of underspending. And on the revenue side, I'm pleased to report that Douglas O'Donnell and the revenue team have been keeping us on track so that we can meet our spending obligations through 3 quarters of the fiscal year. Gaming revenue is meeting projections. Racing is not only meeting projections, but with enough money to allow for COLAs for the seasonal staff. And sports wagering is on track to exceed revenue projections. Staff will continue to monitor and spending and allocate any applicable savings now towards any large projects on the horizon for FY26, or have these funds carry forward into the FY26 fiscal year as credit towards licensee assessments. We are pleased to report that while there are potential exposures we are tracking, we have identified underspending and additional revenue collections to exceed identified exposures. At this time, we are available to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. I always want to say Scully because that's what I call him. So thank you for that. Any questions? I don't see any. I will say I want to thank my Siri thought I was talking to it. I do want to thank Commissioner O'Brien and her position as treasurer. I think we made it easy on you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you, John, and commissioners. You know, this is all the credit of John and Doug. I've been pulled in different directions, working with the managers. So I do want to say thank you to the team for supporting me and getting this done. And it's a great update. Good job, John. Good job, Doug.
Thank you. Nice job,
And
Scott.
Commissioner O'Brien as treasurer. Of course, she had a hand in this as well. So thank you.
Thank you all. We appreciate it and the hard work and diligence that you put into this budget. And we look forward to getting the next update. And then I know we're going to start talking about the next budget too. So. All right. With that, we are going to turn it to item number 10, and we're going to kick it over to Director Monahan. And I will say, commissioners, there's some sub issues here from A to F, and Director Monahan and I were talking this morning, and it seems like we may want to group this together so we're not going in and out of issues. So with that, Director Monahan, good morning.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So yes, today we have a number of different matters for the commission. Some of them are the standard sports wagering non-compliance incidents that we're bringing to the commission for the first time for direction on. And then the second half are recommendations for civil administrative penalties for review and potential approval by the commission. So I might suggest that we reorder our topics a little bit today, start with the new non-compliance events and then go into the recommendations if that works for everyone. Great. And I will, different members of the team, actually, I think the whole team today is going to be handling this, which is fantastic, the whole Chief Enforcement Counsel's office. So I'll just call out the different agenda items and the different individuals who will be leading those. So the first, we actually will stay A. And for that new non-compliance matter, we'll turn it over to Nate Kennedy.
Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. This matter is an alleged non-compliance incident that involves Category 3 sports wagering operator FBG Enterprises OpCo LLC doing business as Fanatics. This event implicates 205 CMR 247011, 205 CMR 247012I, and the Massachusetts Sports Wagering Catalog, specifically Section 8A of the Guidelines and Comments section. Fanatics allowed wagers to be placed on the Heisman Trophy winner for 2025 between January 22nd, 2025 and March 21st, 2025. During this time, Fanatics accepted 36 wagers for a total stake of $545.70. Just a quick breakdown, 4 wagers had been cashed out by patrons prior, obviously, to the Heisman being awarded. It has not been awarded yet for 2025. 8 of those wagers were part of a parlay offering where it had previously settled as a loss, so it mooted the improper offering of the Heisman Trophy component. 5 wagers had the impermissible leg of the parlay voided, and 19 wagers were single wagers which have since been made void. The event was caused by an individual member of the trading operations compliance team erroneously authorizing the Heisman Trophy market in Massachusetts, despite it being documented as prohibited in Massachusetts. As you're familiar with these matters, we're bringing them before the commission for guidance on whether this matter should be returned to the IAB for our further investigation and then a recommendation for civil administrative penalty or potentially conditions, whether this should be set up for an adjudicatory hearing or whether the commission would like to utilize Section 16A of Chapter 23N. So with that, I would present it to the commission for further guidance.
All right, commissioners, this is the point. Thank you, Councilor Kennedy. The point where we have to make some decisions. Commissioner Broder.
I'm sure, I'm not sure if I can articulate it properly, so I might lean on our IEB director to make sure I make a suggestion that we steer this in a particular direction that is correct. This strikes me as something that doesn't require more investigation, and it's a fairly low dollar value. So what I would like to see happen is similar to some of the cases that are being presented later today, where the IEB works with the operator to negotiate out or get agreement to an administrative penalty and potential other remedies, and then bring it back to us for our final approval.
Thank you, Commissioner Broder. Commissioner Skinner?
Yeah, I support that with the exception of the piece about a lack of a necessary investigation. I think that's part of the process. If we do kick this back to IAB for a recommendation, they will have to continue investigating the matter, or actually begin an investigation of the matter. And Director Monahan can correct me if I'm wrong about that.
Everyone has been correct up to this point, yes.
I like that answer. We're all correct. Commissioner O'Brien?
Yeah, I agree with what Commissioner Skinner just said too. The one area that I'd be curious about as they do the investigation is what sort of education training and ameliorative steps they took for the employee, right? Who seems to have kind of done a one-off that was pretty clearly not allowed in Massachusetts. So want to make sure this is not something that is going to happen again on some other prohibited wager. But I'm fine with the recommendation to send it back.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Brien. Commissioner Hill?
I am as well, with the changes that have been discussed.
I will say let's send it back, and my interpretation of Commissioner Broder's statement was actually that sounds like they've already done a lot of due diligence here at the IEB, and they'll continue to do so. So I agree with everyone. I would send it back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor.
So for the next matter, we're going to jump down to letter E for our next briefing on noncompliance, and Zach is going to take this one.
Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. This alleged noncompliance incident involves temporary Category 3 sports wagering licensee Crown MA Gaming LLC doing business as DraftKings. It implicates General Laws Chapter 23N, Section 3, and 205 CMR 247.012A1, prohibiting wagering on markets with an outcome dependent on the performance of an individual collegiate athlete. DraftKings accepted 89 wagers with a total handle of $1,655 on the points total of a player participating in the March 23rd, 2025 Arizona versus Oregon NCAA men's basketball game. The market was offered as a result of human error on March 23rd and was available for roughly 2 hours. DraftKings notified the sports wagering division of this incident of noncompliance the following day, March 24th, and on March 25th, notified the sports wagering division that it had canceled and refunded all of the wagers. I'm happy to take any questions the commissioners may have on the facts of this matter, but otherwise the IEB will likewise be seeking the commission's guidance on next steps, the options being the same as those that Mr. Kennedy just laid out, and I can restate those if necessary. Thank you.
I think I've got those things seared into my head at this point. But that said,
I'd like to offer the option.
I saw Commissioner Broder and Commissioner O'Brien, so whoever wants to go first. Commissioner O'Brien.
I was just going to say same as first one, so I'm good.
Perfect. Commissioner O'Brien.
Yeah, I am, except I do have a question for you, Zach, which is, am I correct? They only allowed one individual player bet?
Correct. It was one individual player taking place in that game. His points total was the market that they made available.
Okay, yeah. If in the process of this, somebody can sort of show me or explain to me how they just let one kind of individual player prop get through, I'd be curious to know. And again, same thing of what have they done to make sure it's not going to happen again? But otherwise, I'm satisfied sending it back.
Certainly. Thank you.
We've talked about that toggle before, haven't we, Commissioner O'Brien? Commissioner Skinner?
I agree with sending these back to the IAB.
Commissioner Hill?
Agreed.
I'm in agreement.
Thank you.
If I could just inquire quickly before we move on, there have been a number of I would say non-compliance matters of this nature that the commission has referred back to the IEB. The commission might recall that there is a hearing coming up in June involving BetMGM, and the commission has given some guidance in previous non-compliance matters of asking the IEB to hold any recommendations related to that particular type of violation until that hearing has been completed and the disposition has been rendered. So just wondering if the commission would like us to do that in this case to hold it, or if the commission is comfortable with the IEB presenting it, in normal course.
Normal course here.
Well, so my question is, when is the hearing? It's June, you said?
I believe it's Nate might know off the top of his head because he's handling, I think maybe like the third week in June. Is that right, Nate?
June 18th.
Yeah, I mean, my suggestion would be you can proceed, but I don't see any reason to advance this before we have that hearing, right? Because you may get, guidance on what we're thinking in the topic.
Sure. And I have to say, I don't understand the question. Sorry.
So I'll back
Can
up.
Can I say something here, Kathleen,
Sure.
for 1 second? What I'm hearing is do they need additional guidance? We have another case open, Commissioner Skinner.
Yes.
And do they need additional guidance before that, or have we given them enough on these two matters to do normal course? And sorry, CEC Kramer, I'll give it back to you, but I like to dumb things down for myself.
Sure, I think that's accurate, Chair. I think Commissioner Skinner, the commission has heard some player prop non-compliance matters that have come in subsequent to the adjudicatory hearing that's scheduled in June, which is obviously pending. And in other instances, when we have presented for the first time that there has been some sort of non-compliance involving player prop wagers, the commission has requested that the IEB hold on any recommendation on those matters until the BetMGM matter has been resolved and a decision has been rendered, in order to provide the CEC essentially with some guidance as to how the commission is treating that particular type of violation. So we have a few matters that are in our queue that have just been holding, waiting for the BetMGM hearing to happen, so that we can in course apply any sort of guidance that the commission may give in that decision. And I just wanted to see if the commission would like us to do that with this particular matter, or if we should just move it along in our normal cadence, because I wouldn't want to bring it prematurely if the commission was hoping that we were going to hold it until the BetMGM adjudicatory hearing was resolved, if that answers your question or gives some more clarity.
It does. But have we given you enough guidance to move forward with that? I'm sorry. Now, in the context of understanding the question, Commissioner O'Brien weighed in, and I think Commissioner Hill weighed in. Could you remind me what your position is on that?
Mine was that on the timing, given that we're coming back in about a month to be adjudicating the MGM, my suggestion, I'm not saying them hold and sort of put it away till we're done, but I certainly wouldn't prioritize it in terms of, I think they would probably benefit from hearing what we have to say and what we ask in that. Because that may cause us to say that that hearing in and of itself will probably give more guidance, would be my best.
I agree with that. Because if we have the adjudicatory hearing already scheduled.
Yeah.
And that's going to go forward. And so I would hate to be inconsistent here. So I think I would like to also not hold, but as Commissioner O'Brien said, it's just kind of get guidance from that particular hearing once it's been completed.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else on that? I'm going to call that the walk and chew gum approach, because it sounds like you can kind of continue on, but you can also keep an eye out on what we do. I will say on these two particular matters, I read the memo, we've adjudicated very similar matters in the past. So I think you have a good body of work there, but who knows, you may get another body of work.
And thanks for flagging that too. Sorry, Chair, just jumping in.
Yeah, thank you. Yep. All right. Anything else, CEC Kramer, or before we move on to the next one?
Yeah, I'll turn it back to Director Monahan.
Thank you. Director Monahan.
Thank you. So the next matter is letter F, and that will be led by Deandra.
Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. The IAB is presenting its recommendation that the Commission assess a civil administrative penalty in the amount of $10,000 upon BetMGM LLC for a non-compliance event occurring from March 20th, 2023 through May 14th, 2024. The regulations implicated in the violation are 205 CMR 247.011, 205 CMR 247.012I, and the Massachusetts Sports Wagering Catalog. The IAB originally briefed the commission of this non-compliance event on October 24th, 2024, at which point the commission decided to assign this matter to the IAB pursuant to 205 CMR 232.011A. Just to refresh the commission's memory, the facts of this incident involved wagering on the LPGA, which is the Ladies Professional Golf Association, which was previously not approved for wagering. 1,934 wagers were accepted for a total handle of $35,425. During the IAB's initial presentation, the commission was interested in what caused the wagering to go undetected for the length of time that it did. BetMGM reported it offered the LPGA because it believed it was approved in Massachusetts. At the time, BetMGM believed that the LPGA was a member of the International Federation of PGA Tours and thus approved under the Massachusetts event catalog. And just to give a little explanation, some golf leagues like the US Open, for example, and that includes men's and women's, are governed under one umbrella, which would be the USGA in that case, and have been approved since launch. This differs from the PGA and the LPGA, which are two separate golf entities and are not governed under one PGA umbrella. This difference created confusion for some operators, including BetMGM. On May 2nd, 2025, the IAB submitted its recommendation to the commission, which is included in your packet today. As outlined in the recommendation, the IAB investigated this matter, had further discussions with BetMGM concerning the causes of the incident, and reviewed the remedial measures taken. During the IAB's review, no additional information was uncovered that would materially change the nature of the noncompliance as originally presented to the commission. BetMGM was responsive and communicative throughout this process and is in agreement with the IAB's recommendation. Based upon IAB review, communications with the operator, and guidance from the commission, the IAB is recommending that the commission assess a $10,000 civil assessment upon BetMGM. And at this stage, the IAB is asking that the commission vote for one of the two available options pursuant to 205 CMR 232.023A and B, which are to 1, adopt the IAB's recommendation as the commission's final decision, or number 2, reject the IAB's recommendation and issue a notice of intent to adopt a separate recommendation following an adjudicatory hearing. The IAB is happy to answer any questions the commission may have prior to making its decision.
Thank you, Councilor Franks. Commissioner Hill, I see your mic's on.
I'm okay with what's been recommended.
Same.
Thank you, Commissioner Skinner.
And
Same.
good job.
Commissioner O'Brien. Same.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your work on that. Director Monahan.
Thank you. We're going to go back to the top of the list to letter B. And for that, I will turn it back to Nate Kennedy.
Good afternoon again, Chair and Commissioners. The IAB is presenting its recommendation for the Commission to assess a civil administrative penalty in the amount of $10,000 upon FBG Enterprises, OPCO LLC, doing business as Fanatics Betting and Gaming, for a non-compliance event occurring between September 12th, 2023 and March 22nd, 2024. The regulations implicated in this violation are 205 CMR 247.011, 205 CMR 247.012I, and the Massachusetts Sports Wagering Catalog. The IAB originally briefed the Commission on this non-compliance event on January 16th, 2025, and on that date, the Commission decided to assign this matter to the IAB pursuant to 205 CMR 232.011A. The effects of this incident involved wagers being placed on certain Belarusian soccer teams, specifically the Belarusian national team, for the UEFA Euro Championship. Wagers on the Belarusian national teams occurred between September 12, 2023 and March 22, 2024 for a total of 127 wagers, with a total stake of $968.12. All of the wagers placed, the losing wagers were canceled and refunded to patrons, and the patrons were allowed to keep the money that was considered on wagers that would have won. On April 30th, 2025, the IAB had submitted its recommendation to the Commission and circulated to all the commissioners, which each of you had received by email. As outlined In that recommendation, the IAB investigated this matter, had further discussions with Fanatics concerning the cause of the incident, and had reviewed the remedial measures that Fanatics had taken. Just as a very brief understanding of the root cause of this, Fanatics had auto-authorized a setting on their European Championship qualification. The Fanatics had improperly believed that if a team had typically been permitted to participate in the Euro Championship, which is governed by the Union of European Football Association, that it would be approved for sports wagering generally. The UEFA had previously banned Russian and Belarusian teams from participating, and then began allowing the teams to participate again. Again, Fanatics had not individually confirmed that each team participating in the championship were approved for sports wagering in Massachusetts, and that, as I said, had allowed the auto-authorized setting for that particular event. That, again, is the root cause. However, during the IAB's review, no additional information was uncovered that would materially change the nature of the non-compliance as originally presented to the Commission back in January of 2025. Fanatics was responsive and communicative throughout the process and has agreed to the IAB's recommendation. Based on the IAB's review, communication with the operator, and guidance from the Commission, the IAB is recommending the Commission assess a $10,000 civil administrative penalty upon Fanatics. At this time, the IAB is asking for the Commission to vote on the two available options pursuant to 205 CMR 232.023A and B, which are to either adopt the IAB's recommendation as a final decision or reject the IAB's recommendation, issue a notice of intent to adopt a separate recommendation following an adjudicatory hearing.
Thank you, Councilor Kennedy. Commissioner Skinner, your mic's off. Quick.
I accept and adopt the IAB's recommendation here.
I'm getting a yes from Commissioner Broder.
Same.
And Commissioner Hill, and I will say we understand the explanation from Fanatics, but we've put this out there. It's a requirement, and got to pay close attention to it. So, agreed across the board.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to stick with Nate for the next recommendation.
Nate's earning his pay today.
Good afternoon again, Commissioners. The IAB is presenting its recommendation that the Commission assess a civil administrative penalty in the amount of $20,000 upon Betfair Interactive LLC doing business as FanDuel for a non-compliance event occurring between March 20th, 2023 and July 18th of 2024. The regulations implicated in this violation are 205 CMR 247.011, 205 CMR 247.012I, and again, the Massachusetts Sports Wagering Catalog. The IAB originally briefed the Commission on this non-compliance event on January 16th, 2025, and the Commission decided to assign this matter to the IAB pursuant to 205 CMR 232.011A. To refresh the Commission's memory on the facts of this incident, wagers were permitted to be placed on certain Belarusian soccer teams, again, Belarusian national teams competing in international play, and then also Belarusian Premier League teams in the UEFA Championship governed by FIFA. I'm going to get that right by the end of this. Wagers on the Belarusian.
You can actually say UEFA if you want.
UEFA, thank you. Wagers on the Belarusian national teams occurred between March 20th, 2023 and March 26th, 2024 for a total of 3,870 wagers and a total stake of $11,792. Subsequent to the discovery of those wagers, FanDuel also discovered that wagers on the Belarusian Premier League team had occurred between July 11th, 2023 and July 18th, 2024 for an additional 178 wagers and a total stake of $5,829. With the wagers placed, the losing wagers were refunded to patrons, and the winning or wagers that would have won were allowed to be kept by patrons. As I had briefed the Commission back in January, the root cause of this incident was FanDuel receives its from Flutter. Flutter had been providing FanDuel its guidance on this particular prohibition, and previously, similar to the Fanatics incident, Flutter had not permitted betting on Russian and Belarusian teams. However, once Flutter began in the European Union allowing wagers to be placed on Belarusian and Russian teams, FanDuel believed that was proper guidance and similarly did not prohibit wagers from being placed on their platform. The secondary wagers that were discovered were a bit of a misunderstanding of the prohibition. They believed that Belarusian national teams were prohibited, but did not flag Premier League teams from being prohibited, part of the prohibition. So they did not ban Premier League teams that originated from Belarus. With that, as you are aware, the recommendation had been submitted to the commission and circulated by email on April 30th, 2025. And there's further information in that about these violations and the remedial measures taken. During the IAB's review, no additional information was uncovered that would materially change the nature of the noncompliance as originally presented to the commission back in January. FanDuel was responsive and communicative through the process and has agreed to the IAB's recommendation. Based on the IAB's review, communications with the operator, and guidance previously from the commission, the IAB is recommending the commission assess a $20,000 civil administrative penalty upon FanDuel. At this stage, the IAB is asking the commission to vote on one of two options, as previously stated now. You can either adopt the IAB's recommendation as the final decision, or reject the IAB's recommendation and issue a notice of intent to operate adopt a separate recommendation following an adjudicatory hearing.
Thank you, Counselor. Commissioner Hill.
As presented, we can move forward with the recommendation. That would be my recommendation.
I'm getting the same from Commissioner Broder. Commissioner O'Brien, Commissioner Skinner.
I agree. And I'll also take a moment to laud FanDuel's remediation initiatives, particularly the sport ownership program. I think it's a nice way to ensure compliance, to assist in that anyway. And it might be fun to get some data at some point as to how effective that is at curbing potential noncompliance incidents.
That's a good observation and a good point. So I agree also to move forward on that, Councillor Kennedy. So I think we will adopt it.
Thank you.
Director Monahan.
Thank you. So we're going to kick it back to Zach for our last item of the day.
Good afternoon once again, Chair and Commissioners. The IAB's on this matter is presenting its recommendation that the Commission assess a civil administrative penalty in the amount of $10,000 upon Penn Sports Interactive, or PSI, for a non-compliance event occurring between April 2nd and April 4th, 2024. The regulations implicated in this violation are 205 CMR 233.06, 205 CMR 256.071, and 205 CMR 256.072. The IAB originally briefed the Commission of this non-compliance event on February 2nd, 2025, at which point the Commission assigned this matter to the IAB pursuant to 205 CMR 232.011A. The facts of this incident involved PSI transmitting promotional materials by way of email and push notification to 8 self-excluded individuals in Massachusetts. This was the result of human error in the administration of PSI's marketing communications platform. On April 22nd, 2025, the IAB submitted its recommendation to the Commission by email. As outlined in the recommendation, the IAB investigated this matter, had additional communications with PSI regarding the cause of the incident, and remedial measures taken. During the IAB's review, no additional information was uncovered that would materially change the nature of the non-compliance as originally presented to the Commission. PSI was responsive and communicative throughout the process and agrees with the IAB's recommendation. And based upon that review, communications with the operator, and the previous guidance from the Commission, the IAB is recommending that the Commission assess a $10,000 civil assessment upon PSI. At this stage, as has been the case on the last several matters, which we may all be able to recite from memory at this point, the IAB is requesting the Commission's decision on one of the options under 205 CMR 232.02 3A and B, which are to adopt the recommendation or reject the recommendation, and issue a notice of intent to adopt a separate recommendation following an adjudicatory hearing. And I'll be happy to answer any questions on this one at this point.
So
Thank you.
I had a question on this one, Zach. This
Sure.
one doesn't sit as well with me.
Okay.
Given the VSE,
Mhm.
that to me statutory can be impactful. It didn't happen to trigger anything in Massachusetts, but given it wasn't a self-disclosure in the VSE, I'm curious to know a little bit more about the 10,000 versus, even 20.
So I think that as laid out, there is a good amount of remediation that was put forth by PSI on this matter. It is a matter that was a result of human error and understanding, obviously, the high priority the commission places on VSE matters and kind of any contact to them. The IAB did take note that this didn't allow anybody to access a platform or anything in that regard. It was simply the ads themselves, which, while still serious, I would argue, factored into our decision making. Additionally, as indicated, this happened quite a little bit ago at this point. The remedial measures placed from PSI at this point have some kind of road behind them at this point and appear to have been effective. They reported something like 16,000 marketing campaigns have been transmitted since this without incident, which the IAB considered in making its recommendation here. And then additionally, it looks as though the specific factor that led to the issue here may be soon phased out from even being involved in the PSI protocol. So taking all that into account and reviewing the facts that we had here, the fact this was the first issue of this type from PSI, the IAB came to the conclusion that $10,000 is an appropriate number.
I'm just going to voice, I'm probably in the minority, but my dissatisfaction with the number. I think given the lack of self-disclosure, the statutory prohibition, the VSE, I would have gone higher. 10,000 sort of the floor that we're giving on some of these. I probably would have gone to 20 or 25. But I'm not going to, ask for an adjudicatory hearing, just expressing sort of where I'm coming forward, as if you see any more of these going forward.
Commissioner O'Brien, we'll poll the group before we make a determination. Commissioner Skinner?
I have a few questions, Zach. The stat that you referenced, that's also included in the memo as a bullet point, the date is as of April 5th, 2024. So the 16,000 marketing campaigns that have been completed without incident. So have there been, and I'm assuming that's the correct date, April 5th, 2024. My question is, have there been any incidents since then, since it's a year later?
No, that may have been phrased ambiguously. That's when the measures were placed. So April 5th was the date that PSI reported this matter to us, and that's the date that they reported they'd imposed those remedial measures. So that would have been from April 5th, 2024 to the date that the IAB submitted or finalized its recommendation.
Okay, thank you. I also had a question about the actual facts of the non-compliance incident. It said, so there was this issue with the unchecking and rechecking of the filters.
Sure.
And were there multiple instances of that, or was it just one instance? Because I'm wondering how, I guess another way to ask this is, were there multiple campaigns that got distributed to individuals on the VSE list? So, because I'm wondering how one individual received 5 communications, 2 received 3, 1 received 2, etc. How does that, can you explain a little bit more about how the mechanics of that?
Correct. So my understanding from the explanation that PSI has provided, and obviously this is a heavily technical area, so they gave me quite a bit of information regarding how these are performed. My understanding is that periodically, the way that the operators have to operate is that some mailing list type things, such as dormancy notifications, et cetera, that they're required to send, require the operator to send things to individuals that may otherwise be excluded. So things that aren't marketing materials, but things that they are required to send per certain regulations in certain jurisdictions. So when those are to occur, somebody in the marketing division has to go in and uncheck or recheck the box that basically filters those individuals out from receiving anything from them. So the way that I understand that this occurred from what was explained to me is that in the unchecking the box to allow for those required notifications to go out to everyone, there was an error in reselecting them. So to reapply the filter to stop excluded individuals from receiving things. So for the period of time between when that failure occurred and when it was ultimately caught following a patron complaint, those individuals were not blocked from receiving communications from PSI. So that's why it's one incident occurring over that 2-day period until it was identified and then it was remedied.
Okay, and was this the one that there were no individuals from Massachusetts who were captured in the 8 people? Am I
So the way that it was identified, the patron complaint that led to the PSI discovery of this issue was not from Massachusetts. So when they went back through, they originally knew that there were individuals from Massachusetts impacted. They went back through and did a more full audit, which led to the total number of 8 that we have from Massachusetts.
Okay, and I guess then my question is, are we sure that was only limited to 8 people? Because I would imagine, unless they're checking and unchecking each individual patron, I'm just wondering how there are only 8 people that were affected when we have more than 8 people on the VSC list from Massachusetts.
Can't speak to that definitively. My understanding would be not everybody that is on the VSE list may have previously had a PSI account. So it may just be individuals that the account still exists or was closed out who happened to then receive communications from PSI. That is from reading all the facts and from what they've explained to me, that would be my understanding of how that would have happened. But that's certainly something that we could seek out with the operator.
Yeah, I like that because I'm really stuck on that question. But then the other piece of information that I'd like to get is some of the specifics on the remedial measures, right? So you have that PSI implemented additional back-end selections to act as a fail-safe in the event of a failure. I want to make sure that so I'm interested in what those fail-safes are. The other is the additional QA checks. They're referenced very broadly, but I'm interested in more of the nitty-gritty of what it is that they have implemented in the way of a remedial measure here. And then interested in the anticipated completion date of another one of their remedial measures that talks about developing new automation. So I don't want to say that I have an issue with the proposed monetary amount, but I would like some additional information in order to weigh my opinion there.
Understood. Thank you.
So I'm gonna go a different direction. I'm going to say that would be really right for an adjudicatory hearing, Commissioner Skinner. I'm going to trust that the IEB is correct on this matter. I'm going to, lean on the fact that PSI's had really good relationships with us, that the point of what we're doing here is compliance. I hear you. I respect everything you're saying. It's not a lack of respect for what you or Commissioner O'Brien are saying. It's just a matter of, I'm looking at it slightly different. I do understand how important it is to keep BSEs off these lists. And trust me, if this comes back around, I guess what I would say is, I'm kind of where you are, Commissioner Skinner. If this comes back around, I would delve into everything you just said and plus, but I think I'm comfortable accepting the recommendation of IEB. And that's where I'm coming from on this one.
Yeah, that's fair in terms of the piece about, this wasn't an adjudicatory hearing, so I certainly respect that. So I'm not intending to stand in the way of, moving this along if my fellow commissioners agree to accept the recommendation. Regardless, I would be asking that the IEB respond with the information that I've asked for. Anyway, and that's the information that I'm looking for just to satisfy my inquiry. So in other words, should the commission accept this recommendation, I still want to move forward, or the IEB to move forward with responding with my a response to my questions.
That's understandable and understood, and that can be done outside of the formal process. I agree with that. Commissioner Broder, I see your mic's off. And then
no, that is what I was going to say. It sounds to me like I am supportive of approving the current settlement or resolution that's on the table. And I do think we can also pursue the information that Commissioner Skinner quite reasonably wants to take a look at.
Yeah, I totally agree with that piece. Commissioner Hill?
I am for moving this forward as well as recommended.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill. Commissioner O'Brien, for the record, I think it's been noted.
So, yeah, I'm not asking for more information. I just, you can note for the record, I think that the fine was too low, given the offense.
I'm sure PSI is listening as we speak, so.
More for our IEB than PSI, just sort of, to the extent that we're giving sort of feedback and guidance on those areas. I think VSE statutory violations are of a higher seriousness in terms of ranking the offenses.
I agree. I would also say that there is a decision that's been made for them today by a majority of us. Thank you for that. All right. Director Monahan.
Thank you. Chair, if you'll indulge me for 30 seconds, because the whole CEC team presented today, I just wanted to say thank you for the extraordinary work of the team. As you can tell, everyone's been very, very busy, both with this sports wagering related matters and with durable suitability and other matters. So just wanted to say thank you.
That's Commissioner Hill had a thumbs up. Somebody's having some phone calls. This is
it was less than 30 seconds and well deserved.
Thank you, Commissioner Broder. Director Monahan, we don't say it enough. There's no way we can say it enough, how appreciative we are of the IEB. They take a lot of abuse down there, having some awkward conversations with all of our licensees, and it's appreciated.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. That was a lot of work done there. I believe we have number 11 is the next item, which is Sports Wagering Division, Chief Teresi. We have some updates to House rules and some waiver requests. I will say before the waiver requests, we're going to have to go into executive session. I may take some matters out of order so we can just dump into executive sessions and finish the meeting there. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. For our first item, updates to PSI House rules, I will turn it over to Compliance and Operations Manager Tom Lamb.
Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. PSI and ESPN Bet has submitted several House rules updates today to improve their customer clarity surrounding their wager settlements. While it may look like a lot of revisions were made in the red line attachment, after review, we found PSI rewrote the entire market and sentences where there are only minor changes made to a few words and phrases. With that, if you turn to page 130 of your packet, I'll first discuss the proposed additions to the general market rules. In the obvious errors section, this addition addresses any wagers placed on a team or player where their names are misspelled. In instances where misspellings are obvious, all wagers placed on these teams or players will be valid and settled. In the general market rules section, this addition addresses if any player or team that is initially omitted from a market, patrons may request their addition. If the requested player or team is later added and wins, that wager will be upheld and settled as a winning bet. For example, if Drake May, the New England Patriots quarterback, was not initially listed as a potential MVP award winner at the start of the NFL season, but was later added at a Patriots request, their wager would remain valid if he were to win the MVP award. In the exclusive boost and special section, PSI has added cross events to their platform. Cross events typically occur when multiple large events take place in the same period, where wagers can be placed on a combination of various sports. For these cross events, our division requested the addition of this specific language to their host rules. This language is identical to what we've asked other operators to adopt who have this market available on their platform. We'll move on to PSI's additions to their sports-specific rules, starting with boxing. First, if the length of the schedule of rounds has changed, both the number of rounds has not changed, these wagers will still be valid. Second, PSI added round and group round betting markets on their platform. This offering is similar to what other operators have offered, and the added market rules are consistent with what other operators have in place. In football, PSI added 2 rules for further clarification, beginning with a player's overall game statistics. Player stats earned during a point after touchdown, or PAT, and or a 2-point conversion will not count towards their overall official game statistics. Next, PSI grades turnovers to only occur by the offensive team. Now, moving on to their updates and their house rules, you can find on page 131 of your packet. I'll start with basketball, PSI updated their regular season league leaders to be graded based on rules on both the WNBA and NBA websites. In boxing, they provided 3 minor updates. In the abandonment postponement section, if a fight is abandoned, canceled, or postponed and no new date is set, any undecided bets will be canceled unless the fight happens on the same date. This was one of the minor updates that was changed from the same date, changed from the end of the next calendar day to the same date. In the incomplete events, if the scheduled number of rounds in a fight is changed, then all wagers will be deemed no action and voided in the following markets: total rounds, round betting markets, and the fight to go the distance. In its method of victory rules, PSI made a minor language change from decision to points. In boxing, judges utilize a scoring system where they score each boxer's round based on points. The operator is simply clarifying the language to reflect how judges award points, which results in the method of victory. In hockey, PSI has updated its next goal market to include no goal as a possible wager. If no goal is scored, wagers placed on this market will be considered winners. They also added examples to clarify their time-based markets for total goals in the first 5 and 10 minutes of the start of the game, and team to record a shot on goal in the next 2 minutes. Goals scored in the first 5 and 10 minutes are time-based on the elapsed time in a game, while a team to record a shot on goal in the next 2 minutes refers to the time in the game clock of when a goal is scored within a period. In their specials contest section, PSI provided a minor update to state all wagers on award markets are deemed as action regardless of the outcome. And finally, due to the additions and updates made in their boxing and golf sections, golf, which was previously updated last quarter, the rules numberings were correctly updated in their house rules. This concludes all of PSI's additions and revisions to the house rules. Stev Kazarian, who is the Sportsbook Compliance Manager at PSI, is in today's meeting to help answer any questions. One thing we'd like to note is by clarifying its policies, PSI's proposed changes help customers better understand the terms set forth, which will minimize the possible voided wagers due to possible misinterpretations. Following a thorough review of the updates and in comparison of these rules against other operators' house rules, our division recommends approval of these changes today. Chair?
Tom, is this your first time presenting?
Very first one.
Well, you've done a great job. Thank you for doing that.
I appreciate that.
And you definitely understood that I have a slow ear, so thank you. Commissioner Hill.
Mr. Chairman, I was going to make a motion, but I see that Commissioner Broder took his mic off, so he may have a comment or a question.
Commissioner Broder.
A quick question to make sure I understand, because I've got to admit I didn't catch it, and I don't always catch stuff in these rules, house rules changes. So turnovers are for offense only?
So based on the house rules, turnovers can only be graded as by the offensive team. So if a defensive player were to intercept the ball and then were later
then
stripped
cough
and
it up.
fumbled, that wouldn't be deemed as a turnover.
I think that is something that patrons will not, our patrons that don't dive into the house rules will probably think there'll be some shock, let's say, if that affects, like a total turnovers or a prop bet. I suspect we'll hear about that.
So do you want to add anything on to that?
I do believe that we're grading as far as the governing body, the NFL at the time would do the stat. So it's just to align with the way the NFL grades these, has these in the box score. So it just makes it clearer to the patron that it is whatever the NFL has it as a turnover. That's how we would grade it. And it's only interception and fumble where turnover on downs does not count. It's one of those things with the NFL, even though it's called turnover on downs, it's not considered a turnover. It just aligns with the NFL wording.
Yeah, I'm all good with it. It's just that I just think kind of either way you might hear about it, but I'm all good with the proposal, and then I would kick it over to Commissioner Hill if no one else has anything to say.
Commissioner.
Once again, I saw Commissioner O'Brien have her mic
I
off.
saw that too. And then I saw her turn it off, so I didn't know.
I did not see that. My apologies.
I was just curious what the actual definition is for keeping stats, right? That I figured that was what was controlling. And so my question got answered.
I'll give you a great example as a referee, and I don't know if Burke's on here as well. When a basketball offensive player throws it and it hits a defensive player, the shot clock doesn't change because there's no possession that has changed. Then it comes back to the offensive player. The clock just keeps going. So it's interesting in the intricacies of the rules. With that said, Mr. Chairman, I do have a motion. I move that the commission approve the updates to PSI's house rules as included in the commissioner's packet and discussed here today. And thank Tom for your great presentation and welcome aboard.
Second to all of that.
All right, Commissioner O'Brien.
Aye.
Commissioner Hill.
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner.
Aye.
Commissioner Broder.
Yes.
And I vote yes, 5-0.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Commissioners. Next, for updates to Fanatics house rules, I'll turn it over to Compliance and Operations Manager Stefan.
Thanks, Carrie. Good afternoon, Commissioners. A very brief house rules revision from Fanatics Betting and Gaming. The memo and red line changes can be found on page 134 of your packet. Fanatics has updated a rule for soccer match player props to allow under bets to be settled as winners if a player starts but is subbed off during the first half and has not exceeded the stat threshold. Previously, these bets would typically be voided. This change does not apply to halftime substitutions, and outcomes already determined will be settled normally. From our review, this change is a more customer-friendly revision, as instead of having a bet void, it can now be settled as a win. Lastly, this change also brings more consistency to how prop bets are settled within Fanatics House rules. The similar language can be found throughout the other sports sections of Fanatics House rules, and as such, they are looking to align all of their sports sections with this similar type of language. Very brief review from our side. We do have a representative from Fanatics on the meeting, Product Compliance Manager David Truman, to help answer any specific questions. However, after a review, we have no issue with this change and would recommend the approval today. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Stefan, and we appreciate the licensee being here. Questions, Commissioners, on this change? I don't think I have any. Do we have a motion?
I didn't want to hog them all, but I will make a motion. I move that the commission approve the updates to Fanatics House rules as included in the commissioner's packet and discussed here today.
Second.
All right. Commissioner O'Brien.
Aye.
Commissioner Hill,
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner,
Aye.
and Commissioner Broder.
Yes.
All right. That's 5-0.
Thank you. Next, are you all right with me moving forward, Chair, with that? So next
Yeah.
we have, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I do think we're going to have to take these separately, given that we have to bring different licensees in. But I do, after that, want to take some items out of order, if my commissioners will, fellow commissioners will indulge me. That said, Chief Teresi, please proceed.
Great. Next, we have a waiver request from FanDuel. FanDuel has submitted a request for a waiver from requirement in 205 CMR 239046 to report certain gender data. Specifically, that regulation requires operators to compile, maintain, and make available to the Commission upon request certain data derived from their loyalty programs, player tracking software, equipment, or similar systems, and that data includes gender data. FanDuel has requested a permanent waiver from this requirement, and that request is included in your packet. We do recommend today denying that request. FanDuel has essentially argued a couple of things. They argue that gender data is sensitive personal information and that patrons might be concerned about providing it. And then also that the company should not have to collect gender data because they themselves don't have a need for it. Regarding the sensitivity issue, our legal team has advised that there's no definition of sensitive personal information and that we haven't been provided with an argument that gender would fall within such a category. Counselor Stempeck is here and can speak to that should you have any questions on that issue. And then regarding, or I can pause if there are any specific questions there.
I will start with what I asked you when you briefed me on this matter, Chief Teresi, which is, do any of the other operators object to providing this information?
No, all the other operators are in compliance.
Thank you.
Regarding the need for the data, while FanDuel has stated that they don't have a need for the data, our Research and Responsible Gaming Division does feel that there's a need for this data on our end. So I will ask either Director Van der Linden or Dr. Andrews to briefly speak to that.
Sure. Thank you, Chief Teresi. I'd be happy to. So commission-funded research and broader research more generally has indicated that gender is an important indicator, both in sports wagering participation as well as an indicator of problem gambling. We believe that data that would be derived when requested from sports wagering operators would be a valuable source of data to us, continue to monitor that.
So for these reasons, we would recommend that the commission deny FanDuel's waiver request. We do have a representative from FanDuel on the call, Josh Mehta, Director of Legal and Regulatory Affairs, should you have any questions for him.
I would also invite him, if he has anything to say, to do that.
Thank you, Commissioner Maynard. Appreciate the opportunity to be heard here. I think we laid out the concerns that we have in our waiver request. I would just say a few things here. I think one, the commission was really thoughtful about the information that was required to be collected from customers when they create a sports wagering account in Massachusetts. That information is laid out in the account registration requirements in 205 CMR 24803. And I think we at FanDuel, we certainly pride ourselves on only holding the amount of information that's absolutely necessary for us to operate our business. I think it's a view that the commission I know shares, and it's reflected in the policy implications of the data privacy regulations the commission put in place. I think we would welcome and suggest a few things on this one. The first, and as we read 205 CMR 239. The other data points identified in that regulation are related to general corporate records, information that is readily available, and I think the inclusion of the demographic customer-specific information does feel a little out of step with the account registration requirements. The other point I would make, though, is we certainly try to balance the customer friction and the amount of information that we know is required to, appropriately verify age and identity, including sensitive information like social security numbers, with, the thought that customers are concerned about the information that companies hold for them. There's a lot of information given out in a lot of different online account contexts, and I think customers are rightly concerned about some of the cybersecurity considerations with that. I will say before 2025, we were not collecting gender data in any jurisdiction. We had historically collected title information as part of the account registration process, and I know this commission expressed some concerns that that was a mandatory field during the operator suitability hearings. What we have seen since the waiver was initially submitted is that New York has gone through a notice and comment rulemaking process to facilitate the collection of this information on a voluntary basis from customers, and giving them the option to respond or not. I would say probably consistent with our initial thoughts that customers would take concerns with providing this information. We've only seen a 28% response rate to that voluntary collection of information. I think the only other point I would make, is that as we read the requirement in 239, we understand the information to be, compiled and maintained to be available upon request. We understand there has not been a request to date. And, to the extent this information is being purchased from third-party service providers, it would require additional costs for operators, and it's not something that I think would be maintained in real time.
Thank you, Mr. Mehta. I'll take a stab at this before I open the floor. Hear your concerns, respect your concerns. Am going to note that other operators likely face this similar concerns. If you watched our meeting earlier, you probably saw a youth information from Springfield where it was separated by gender. I think it's important for our research and responsible gaming unit, which is a unique requirement in Massachusetts to do research on responsible gaming, has expressed that they can use the data. I hear your friction argument. I like to say sometimes there's good friction, and friction can't always be a reason to not gather some good information or to have some good regulations in place. So with that, I will say as one commissioner that I want the data, and I would actually deny your request. Commissioners.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Hill.
Josh, I always try and work, with you folks best I can. But on this particular issue with the way that we look at our research and how important it is to us, especially our young people, I'm with the chairman. I just can't see giving this out today. I wish I could. I can't.
So I make 3 on this. I would recommend consistent with sports wagering's recommendation to deny the request.
So do we have to have a formal vote on this? I think we do have it marked up.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Hill.
I move that the commission deny FanDuel's request for a waiver from the requirements in 205 CMR 239.046 with respect to gender data as included in the commissioner's packet and discussed here today.
Second.
Any further discussion? Commissioner O'Brien?
Aye.
Commissioner Hill?
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner?
Aye.
Commissioner Broder?
Yes.
And I vote yes, 5-0. Thank you for coming and thank you for articulating your position. We appreciate it.
Thank you for the consideration.
All right. Chief Teresi.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So next we have 2 KYC processes for the commission to review and approve in executive session. So I'll defer to you on sort of how you want to handle the executive session piece. But this is to review and approve both Bally's and BetMGM KYC processes. Just give you a brief intro here. Each of these operators uses a waterfall approach to KYC that they will walk you through in more detail in executive session. The reason these need to be approved by the commission is because not each individual person going through the KYC process would be required to go through to enter responses to KBA questions, which is our current regulatory requirement. So these alternate methods that are used by the operators need to be approved by the commission. Following the conclusion of each executive session, we would recommend that you approve both Bally's and BetMGM KYC processes. We do have representatives from both operators who will present to you in executive session.
Thank you. So I think what we should do is go ahead and take Bally's, and then when we come back, we'll do BetMGM's, and at that point, we'll go out of order. Okay. With that, let me read some language in and see if the commissioners want to enter executive session. If you're ready, Chief Teresi.
Yes, thank you.
All right. And I apologize if it seems a little awkward. I am using different technology today, so I'm having to scroll through to see everyone's face. The commission anticipates that it will convene an executive session in conjunction with its review of Bally's methods of KYC in accordance with General Law Chapter 30A, Section 21A7, and General Law Chapter 4, Section 726N, to review certain materials in connection with the sports wagering operators' processes and perimeters during account creation related to customer verification and authentication, as these matters relate to cybersecurity within the Commonwealth, and the public discussion or disclosure of which is likely to jeopardize public safety or cybersecurity. Would we like to enter into executive session for that?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner O'Brien,
Aye.
Commissioner Hill,
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner,
Aye.
Commissioner Broder,
Yes.
and I vote yes, 5-0. All right, I think we'll be moved. All right, we can take that screen down. Okay, so we just finished a robust review of Bally's methods of KYC. We appreciate Ram for walking us through it. And with that, commissioners, we have a vote marked up.
Hello, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Hill.
Just bear with me 1 second. I move that pursuant to 205 CMR 248.044, the commission approve Bally's alternate method of KYC identity authentication at the time of sports wagering account establishment as included in the commissioner's packet and discussed here today, including both the method currently implemented and the method to be implemented by the end of the year.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Broder. Commissioner O'Brien.
Aye.
Commissioner Hill.
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner.
Aye.
Commissioner Broder.
Yes.
And I vote yes, 5-0. All right, thank you to Bally's. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for your consideration and vote. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Kim. All right. So we have BetMGM to discuss. We also have some executive session meeting minutes. And we also have commissioner updates and other business. So what I would like to do, if possible, is go ahead and ask if there are any commissioner updates today. All right, I'll just state that I know that there's going to be a lot of conference going and so forth. And so maybe in the future, myself included, we'll do a commissioner update on that at some point once we all reconvene, maybe in July or something like that. So any other business that we've not anticipated? All right. Let's first read the language around BetMGM, if that's okay with you, Chief Teresi.
Yes, thank you.
All right. The commission anticipates that it will convene in an executive session in conjunction with its review of BetMGM's method of KYC in accordance with GL Chapter 30A, Section 21A7, and General Law Chapter 4, Section 726N, to review certain materials in connection with the sports wagering operators' processes and parameters during account creation related to customer verification and authentication, as these matters relate to cybersecurity within the Commonwealth, and the public discussion or disclosure of which is likely to jeopardize public safety or cybersecurity. Would we like to enter into executive session for that purpose?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Broder.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Skinner. Commissioner O'Brien.
Aye.
Commissioner Hill.
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner.
Aye.
Commissioner Broder.
Yes.
And I vote yes, 5-0. All right. The commission also anticipates, if we can go to number 12, that it will meet in an executive session to review minutes from previous executive sessions, as their discussion at an open meeting may frustrate the intended purpose for which the executive session was convened pursuant to General Law Chapter 30A, Section 21A7, and General Law Chapter 4, Section 726N for June 6, 2024. General Law Chapter 30A, Section 21A7, and General Law Chapter 23K, Section 21A7 for February 24th, 2025 at 11:11 a.m. and 11:33 a.m. and March 11th, 2025 at 12:35 p.m. General Law Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, 4, 6, and 7. General Law Chapter 4, Section 726F and N, and General Law, Chapter 23N, Section 6I, for February 24th, 2025 at 1:03 p.m. And General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A4 and 7, and General Law, Chapter 23K, Section 21A7, March 11th, 2025 at 11:18 a.m. And those are listed 1 through 6 in the packet below for votes. Would we like to enter into executive session or stay in executive session rather for those purposes?
Yes, I move that we enter into executive session for the reasons just stated by the chair.
Thank you, Secretary Skinner.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill. Commissioner O'Brien.
Aye.
Commissioner Hill.
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner,
Aye.
and Commissioner Broder.
Yes.
And I vote yes, 5-0. We will not reconvene at the end of this executive session to the public, so everyone, please stay dry. Commissioner Skinner?
I think we have to re-enter the public session and take a vote on.
We will re-enter that. Yep, exactly. That's a good point. I'm trying to clean this up. And if you notice, when you read these, going in and out of session at AMs and PMs is one of the reasons I always try to bundle these in a meeting, but you know what? That's okay. We'll re-enter for the vote on BetMGM, then we're going to exit and we will not re-enter after that. So let's move on over. All right, Connor. We can take that down. All right, so we just are entering back in from executive session to discuss, after we discussed BetMGM's KYC methods, and this is also marked up for a vote.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Hill.
I move that pursuant to 205 CMR 248.044, the commission approved BetMGM's alternative method of KYC identity authentication at the time of sports wagering account establishment as included in the commissioner's packet and discussed here today, including both the method currently implemented and the method to be implemented by the end of the year.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Brien. Commissioner O'Brien,
Aye.
Commissioner Hill,
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner,
Aye.
and Commissioner Broder.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you to BetMGM. We're glad we got Sarah in and out of there. Session.
Didn't have to do very much this time, so thanks to my team. Just here for moral support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, with that, my colleagues have noticed I've been jumping at the bit to go in and do these executive session minutes, so we're actually there. Anything else before I let the public know we're not going to return? All right, we're going to enter into executive session. Everyone enjoy, stay dry on this very wet Thursday. Enjoy your day.